guys? Welcome to the Awesemo.com deeper dive presented by Odd Shopper. Got another 2-game slate, some NBA playoffs action, so it should be a lot of fun. And the prize pools are continuing to be huge, so there's a lot of incentive for us to get these plays right. Fortunately, we got the perfect guy to help us do that. Adam, Should My Money Share. Adam, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty well. Excited to do a show with you. It feels like I've been doing a lot of shows with Lofty and Greg, and I guess we get our once a week now. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to hopefully a better basketball slate than I had last night.
Yeah, last night. Okay, so I'm trying to remember what happened in last night's slate. It seems like everything's a blur.
Both games blew out. I went out and got drunk and just made. I looked this morning. I was like, yeah, I didn't make any money.
I was tilting the 2 slates ago because Steven Adams was announced starter, and I was like, oh man, now everyone's gonna swap to Adams. I'm gonna just stand pat, and then like no one swapped to Adams.
Yeah, that was a fun slate for me. I was the only
Yeah,
person in the 2K that had him. I was the only person in the 1K that had him, and I played like 80% in the large field too, where he was like 7% on.
nice. Well, did that work out for you?
Yeah. I won the 2K and I got like third in the 1K.
That's pretty sweet. No, you were just saying that you were showing some lady the DraftKings app and you were winning 100K the other night. Was that the same night?
No, that was last Thursday when I won the baseball tournament.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah, so we were having this discussion, the three of us, including Jordan. What are some good places to meet ladies other than apps? And I came up with one for you, Adam, that is an app, but it might be a little bit unconventional. I don't know. Have you checked out the DraftKings social tab?
Is that a thing?
Yeah, you can like you can I keep getting all these like notifications that people have followed me on DraftKings, and you can actually DM people on DraftKings too now. So you just have to find some lady that has some nice DFS lineups and slide into the DMs, man.
Yeah, I just opened it on the desktop. I'd never looked at this, but yeah, there's DMs in here. Apparently, I have one from some person that I have no idea who it is.
You can thank me later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've been doing the playoffs for a little while now, and I think the strategy is quite a bit different than the regular season, especially because we have the same players like every other day. Like they don't mix up the matchups at all, like between slates. So 2 days ago we had Milwaukee and Boston and Golden State and Memphis. Today we got the same teams. So what has been your general approach for switching it up?
Yeah, I think so. I've actually not done as well this postseason as I did last postseason. I think one difference for me is that I have been going a little bit more stars and scrubs this postseason, which, like on tonight's slate, I think that's pretty easy. You still have some really good value because of Memphis. But on the Phoenix slates, I think I've been having a little bit of trouble because like I keep getting, some combination of Cameron Payne, JaVale McGee, like these guys that are going to barely play. And so I do think that in the postseason, since you do get those bench guys not playing as many minutes on the slates where you don't have obvious value like you do tonight with Memphis, I do think going a little bit more balanced is just more viable than it is during the regular season.
Definitely, yeah. And the other thing I've noticed, like sometimes you don't need that bench guy to like do that much. They just need to get you 20 points or something. That could be enough to just lock in the rest of your lineup. Now tonight's slate is quite a bit of a different feel because you got value plays like Steven Adams, like Tyus Jones. So like Steven Adams tonight on DraftKings is 3,400, Tyus Jones 4,900. Like it seems if you start with those two guys, that opens up a lot of salary and like they seem like really good plays. So are you seeing this slate as being a little different than the previous ones?
Yeah, this slate to me seems more like a regular season slate where you just have cheap value that's completely mispriced. I don't really know what the sites were doing. FanDuel did a better job, but like the 4,900 on Tyus Jones on DraftKings, 5,700 on FanDuel, those are still he's still underpriced. He still looks like a good value. I think maybe at first there was a little bit of sticker shock since he jumped so much from last slate, but you just have to keep in mind that he basically projected, like his median projection last slate was nearly 10x his salary. So an increase in salary isn't a big deal when you're starting from a point that low. And then with Steven Adams, FanDuel, I think, priced him pretty close to correctly at 5,300. Still some value there, but at least there's some risk. On DraftKings, assuming he stays in the starting lineup, how does he really fail at 3,400? Like, I don't think he's quite as safe as Tyus Jones was last slate or last game, just because there was no way, barring injury, that Tyus Jones was not going to play a lot of minutes. Adams, you could at least, things happen. He plays poorly and they play more Brandon Clark, or they play more Zaire Williams or Kyle Anderson and go small. Like, that can at least happen with Adams, so there is that risk. But at 3,400, there's just not much downside to just getting to him.
Yeah, it does seem to be like a little bit of a free square now. We'll get into the Memphis situation a little bit down the show in greater detail. But before we get into this game by game breakdown, guys, if you could hit the like button and subscribe, that'll let you know when all our shows go live. We got a lot of NBA content, MLB, of course. Go to our fantasy football channel as well. We're doing best ball stuff now. And on the site side, we got a lot of free tools for you to use today: the NBA player projections, MLB rankings, the PGA rankings, and the NHL rankings. So all those on Awesemo.com. All right, let's get into the breakdown here. Milwaukee, they're all right. So Milwaukee is a 5.5 point underdog tonight, which is just a sign of how good Boston has been. But Milwaukee has been solid. The one major change they've made is they moved Bobby Portis to the bench. Last game, even, he was only splitting the 48 minutes with Brook Lopez pretty much. They didn't play on the court very much at one time. So that seemed to negate the value of both of them to some extent. So that seems like the major change that's happened recently. Are you expecting that trend to continue?
Yes, probably. So one thing that I do think could impact this is the status of Robert Williams on the other side of this game. Last game you saw Boston, without Williams play very small. Derek White played like 34 minutes. And so I think that is one reason why Portis only played 15 minutes last game. If Robert Williams played tonight, I think it's likely that you get, 22 to 24 from Portis. And I think that there's still a chance he gets, 20 to 22 anyway. But if Williams is in, I'd feel a little bit better about Portis's minutes. But one way or the other, I think it's pretty difficult to really like either of these guys because while Lopez does offer some value at 4,800 and he's likely to play, 28 to 30 minutes, he's still just not a great point per minute guy. He's not asked to do a lot. The offense essentially is running entirely through Giannis and Drew so far in this series. So he looks okay for the price, but it's nothing I'm too excited about. And then Portis, even though his salary is dropping, with him coming off the bench, even if you say he plays 22, 23 minutes, he's still just not going to look that good at 5,500. You probably need Brook Lopez to get in foul trouble or some other weird thing to happen where Portis, plays ahead of him.
Agreed. Yeah, I think these guys, they're definitely looking like lower priorities tonight. That being said, it is a little bit of a short slate, so we gotta. There could be an argument for anyone. I guess one of the bull cases could be if both players are playing well, they could get good minutes. Like they don't like rule out playing them together, but probably a less likely thing. The guy that's been getting a lot of this run has been Pat Connaughton. Now, in the last 2 games, he's played 30 minutes and 32 minutes. So he's really been getting a lot of run off the bench, playing well. I'm kind of wondering like if that could stop happening just as quickly as it started, because if he isn't playing well, like it seems like he could be first in line to get those minutes cut. So what do you think the range of outcomes is for Pat Connaughton?
I think it's really anywhere from, I guess like viewing it in terms of like, I wouldn't be shocked. I think it's probably anywhere from like 24 to 32 minutes. But I do think that there's just like, I lean towards the upper 20s, 30-minute projection, just because he can play multiple positions. It's easy for him to stay on the floor. He does multiple things well. So I do think that he's likely to give you 28 to 30 minutes on average. But it's not like it would be surprising. Like if Grayson Allen were to get hot, he can certainly cut into Pat Connaughton's minutes. Or if they were to play Portis more, that could cut into Connaughton's minutes. So it's not like they're set in stone, but I do feel pretty comfortable that, 28 to 30 minutes is kind of where he lives.
Nice. So I think if he gets those kind of minutes, he looks like a very solid value, but not quite as good as Steven Adams or something. But I think given his recent performances, he's going to be somewhat popular. Now, another guy that's been seeing a lot more playing time in the last game is George Hill. He played 23 minutes last game, which was a little bit surprising. He's been out for injury for a while, but it seems like if he's getting 23 minutes in a game, they actually like having lineups with him in there. Now, this might be a little bit too deep for a 2 game slate even. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if this were like yesterday's slate, Hill would be the kind of guy that just shows up in some lineups because he's 3K flat, and you're trying to pay up for Giannis, you're trying to pay up for guys. But today, it's just like I don't need Steven Adams plus Tyus Jones plus George Hill, and I'm sure as hell not playing George Hill over either of those guys.
Yeah, maybe a showdown only for
Yeah.
George Hill.
And I also, I think he could be at least impacted by the Robert Williams status as well. Like if Williams is in, it wouldn't surprise me at all if you do see Portis play more and he'll just play less. Even though they play different positions, just getting bigger lineups from Milwaukee potentially.
Nice. Okay, so the rest of the guys, I mean, Giannis, he's a obviously liable to be the top scorer on any slate. So today the lineup construction does lean more towards stars and scrubs. So it feels like Giannis is pretty likely to crack a lot of lineups. We have him at 50% ownership, 50% chance of being optimal, basically. So a coin flip either way. Do you have any strong feelings about Giannis?
Yeah, I love Giannis. I expect he'll be in most of my lineups. I had about 95% last slate. I assume I'll be somewhere around there again, just because there is enough value. I mean, even getting beyond the Steven Adams and Tyus Jones pieces, you still have like a Brook Lopez that isn't great, but he's fine. He's cheap and playable. You have Pat Connaughton. You have Grayson Allen at 3,900. You have the other guys on Memphis, like that you can go to. So I think that there's just so much value on this slate. And then like if Robert Williams is out, you have Derek White at 3,700 as well. There's just enough guys where it's going to be really easy to build Giannis lineups, even if you do, do something a little bit different. Like you don't have to just necessarily use like Jones and Adams everywhere. It's not like you're just limited to those guys as far as value goes.
Agreed. Yeah, it does seem like it's probably easier to build a lineup with Giannis, and assuming that the lower value pieces pay off, that is going to be pretty likely to be the winning lineup. Now, the rest of the team, Drew Holiday, he's had good usage, but even better minutes with playoffs as things have gone on. He's been getting into the 40s, so he's out there every minute except like 5 or 6. So his usage so far in the playoffs has been 27%. Assist percent's down 26%. So I expect those two to kind of level off a bit. But as far as a lineup construction standpoint, how is Drew Holiday fitting into the picture here?
I love Drew Holiday here. On the one hand, it's maybe kind of difficult to prioritize him just because you like I said before, I'm definitely playing Giannis in most lineups. You have the Memphis guys that are going to take up roster spots, but I really like what we've seen from Holiday in this series. You mentioned the playing time. The usage rate is up, assist percentage is down, like you said. You probably do see those even out a little bit. But what really stands out is that he's averaging 1.12 DraftKings points per minute in this series on 42.9% true shooting. Like he can't really shoot worse. And so it's likely that, over a larger sample, you do see that the shooting regress and him start to be more efficient. And he's already producing. So like if he averages around the fantasy point or 1.1 fantasy points per minute over 40 minutes, he looks good at 8,200 anyway. And then if you add in him actually shooting well, you can get that monster game that we haven't really seen yet.
Yeah, definitely. He's been averaging 41 points a game over the last 5 games. So he's been producing, and that true shooting just shows that based on those games alone, he probably would have averaged more if more of those shots fell. So that's a good insight. Now, with the rest of the team, we got Wesley Matthews and Grayson Allen rounding out the starting lineup. Matthews, kind of one of those guys that gets the minutes for defensive purposes, but not production. Grayson Allen, he seems like he's hit kind of a cold streak, only averaging 15 points a game over the last 5. So, are these guys you're considering tonight?
Matthews, I think, is pretty tough to get to. He's like George Hill to me, where if this were the slate, if this were the other set of games where you didn't have the value, maybe you take some shots on Matthews just because he's going to be on the floor for 30 minutes. But here, there's just enough other value that doesn't involve him that I don't think I really need to get there. Grayson Allen's a little bit more interesting to me, especially because right now we have Connaughton projected for 23% ownership at $100 less than Allen, who's only projected for 14%. You and I had kind of mentioned it when we talked about Connaughton. Like, I think Connaughton on average is playing that 28 to 30 minutes. But if Grayson Allen got hot, he could easily cut into Pat Connaughton's playing time. And so I think there's a little bit of negative correlation there. Not enough to where like I would set a rule to only have one of them. But I think it's a situation where like Connaughton, even though he does project better and I do like him more, I don't think he necessarily should be nearly twice as popular as Grayson Allen.
Definitely. I think that's a good point. Now, it is possible that Grayson Allen and Connaughton both get the minutes if they're both doing well. So this just seems like a situation where there's increased variance because there's a wider minutes range based on how they're playing because they got these three guys, Matthews, Allen, and Connaughton, and there's not really a clear hierarchy of who the team likes more, even though, from a fantasy standpoint, I think that Matthews is by far third place, but they keep playing him, so we got to keep rolling with that. All right. Not that I'm playing him in DFS, but just that it affects the other guys. I want to mention real quick, we got a lot of tools behind the paywall that you can add to your arsenal to really up your DFS game. So got player projections, the ownership projections, the boom bust tool where we compare each player's chance of success with their ownership, the lineup builder, and the Fantasy Cruncher add-on, of course. So you can really improve your results, give yourself the best chance you can get of winning that 100K tonight. And you can get our NBA packages as low as $5 a week, or the full package is 16. Make sure to check out the high stakes ownership as well if you are a high stakes player, and make sure to check out Awesemo Plus. All right, moving on to Boston. Robert Williams is still questionable here. So what did you see 2 days ago with Robert Williams out?
So we saw Boston actually play smaller, and Williams was just ruled out, so perfect timing there.
He's out.
Yeah. So one thing that was surprising last game was that Grant Williams managed to play fewer minutes than he had been, even with Williams in. Grant Williams had typically been playing 30 to 32 minutes. It made sense to expect him to play low to mid 30s last game. He dealt with some foul trouble, also didn't play well. And as a result, you did see a lot of Derek White. He played the final 21 minutes of the game, got up to 34 minutes. I think this is a situation where, certainly that could happen again, but it's probably a mistake to think that that's just certainly going to happen. I think you want to kind of stick to your priors here, and assuming that Grant Williams remains in the starting lineup, I think expecting White to play something like 24 to 26 minutes and Grant Williams to play 32 to 34 still makes more sense. White is less expensive, so it still makes him look like a decent value at that price. But Grant Williams is one of the, if not the best three-point shooters on Boston. Derek White is not a particularly good three-point shooter at all. We know Milwaukee's defensively going to give you threes. I think if you play that last game out 100 times, you're getting Grant Williams playing more minutes than Derek White in the majority of those games.
Agreed. Yeah, Grant Williams, it was kind of an anomaly that he played so few minutes last game. That being said, man, he just does not put up good per minute numbers. So, though I think that people are going to be too low on him. I'm not thinking he's a great play in DFS despite that. I don't know. What are your general feelings about playing him in DFS?
No, that's how I see it as well. It's kind of frustrating because I think people are going to underproject him and be too low on him. But at 4,600, I just don't really know how to take advantage of that all that much. I don't anticipate my big stand tonight being, I'm just going to jam in Grant Williams because, even if I do think people are underprojecting him and, maybe he plays 4 or 5 minutes more than people are projecting, with Grant Williams, you're still talking about 2 fantasy points. And if you go from, 18 to 20 fantasy points or 20 to 22 or whatever, at 4,600, that's still not winning you any money. So I think that he is probably a little bit underowned just as a result of people underprojecting him a bit, but I still have a hard time getting to him at that price.
Agreed. Yeah. Man, I looked at big time the other day because I picked the Grant Williams under 9.5 points prop. And this was like early in the day when Robert Williams wasn't even on the injury report. So I also bet like Al Horford under, and I'm like, it's like Robert Williams out of nowhere is ruled out. I'm like, God dang it, but it still came in. So sometimes it's better to be lucky than right. So, um, okay. Now that Robert Williams is out, so I know Derek White's a guy that played a lot of minutes last game. It seemed like those minutes came from Grant Williams, but also from Jalen Brown, who played the last minutes, I assume due to foul trouble. So um, it does seem like those minutes might have been a little bit fluky for Derek White. What would be your guess for his minutes tonight?
Yeah, I think 22, 24, somewhere in there. In the first half, White played about 13 minutes. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess 24, 26 would make sense. But like you were saying, he subbed in 3 minutes basically into the third quarter because of Jalen Brown's foul trouble. And then he just stayed in, played the rest of the game. Grant Williams was dealing with some fouls and not playing well. So I do think that the minutes for White were fluky. It's not to say you can't play him here, but I think, expecting 24 to 26 minutes makes a lot more sense.
Cool. Yeah, he shows up as a positive value at that minutes range, so certainly a reasonable play. We'll have to see how the ownership shakes out here in a little bit. But maybe Jalen Brown's a good bounce back candidate because he did play fewer minutes last game. All right, so last game he played about 32. But I think more like 40 is probably what he's going to average. So he's showing up as a good value at 8,300. But this comes back to the question of like, do we go stars and scrubs, or like when you go with guys like Jalen Brown, that kind of makes it tougher to get to like a Giannis who is a crazy points per dollar value in addition to being really high projected. So how are you handling this slate? Are you ending up with guys like Jalen Brown?
I do like Brown a lot here. I think that he's still underpriced at 8,200. And like you said, assuming he can avoid foul trouble and that this game is competitive, he's likely to play 38, 39, 40 minutes. He's averaged about 1.1 DraftKings points per minute in this series, 25% usage rate. I think that the thing that's going to be a little bit difficult is you can get to Giannis and Brown, but I think it's probably a little difficult to get like Giannis plus Brown plus Drew, and then also get to like, if you wanted to get to Dylan Brooks or something like that, Jaren Jackson. So that could be a little bit difficult, but I think I would expect most lineups to have, that I make at least, to have, one of Drew or Jalen Brown
Nice.
in that price range. I just think they both look like very, very strong mid-range plays to me.
So I think the guy that everyone's going to go to on the Celtics is Al Horford. He played like ridiculous minutes with Robert Williams out the last game. He's been playing pretty big minutes, not quite to that extent recently, but he's also been on fire. He's averaged 41 fantasy points a game, which is up there with guys like Drew Holiday, like Tatum, Jalen Brown, except he's a lot cheaper. So I think Horford's going to be popular tonight. Like, how are you feeling about him, kind of given that the ownership he's been having?
The salary's starting to get a little bit scary, up to 7,300. But with Robert Williams out again, you get more rebounding opportunities. You're getting more minutes at the 5 for Horford, and he's going to need to play, huge minutes as well. He played 41 minutes last game, almost 42. Of course, you're not going to project that high, but expecting something like 37, 38 minutes from him makes sense. He's played very well in the series. He's averaged 1.16 DraftKings points per minute, which is actually the best on the team, ahead of Tatum in this series. Only a 16% usage rate, but getting assists, rebounding well, leads the team in rebounding percentage. So the salary, I think, is getting to a point where there is at least risk because, if he were to get in foul trouble or for any reason play fewer minutes than we expect, or just not produce quite as well as he has been, then he's not going to pay off that salary. But he's clearly shown that the ceiling is there. Like, you can't say that there's no upside at 7,300 because he's destroyed that price tag already in this series.
Definitely. Like, it's a scary concept of fading him because as a points per dollar play, he looks pretty good. And then he's been lighting it up. Like, the situation is kind of working in his favor with Robert Williams being out. That was kind of my strategy last slate to go under on Horford, but that kind of backfired completely. So I think I might give it a shot again, but certainly a decent play. But when I'm looking at his projection right now, our model has him at 37. And like I think as good as his rebounding has been, his usage and assists haven't really been that high. So man, I I'm not sure how he's gotten so many fantasy points. Like, do you feel like he's been getting a little lucky or?
Probably a little bit, but I mean, at the same time, 1.16 DraftKings points per minute isn't like crazy production. But the thing that makes it most difficult for me with Horford doesn't even really have a ton to do with him, so much as it does. I think that Jalen Brown is more underpriced for $1,000 more. I think that Drew Holiday is more underpriced for $900 more. So I think that how much of those guys I'm going to get to probably does, at least to some extent, limit how much Horford I can get.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a lot of guys that we're wanting to get in our lineups tonight. So one of those guys I'm kind of looking at is Marcus Smart. He's only 5,900. I feel like DK is doing the defensive player of the year a little dirty there, especially given that he played 41 minutes in the last game, which was a playoff high for him. So do you think he keeps that minutes bump, or was that more due to foul trouble for some other guys?
The minutes for Horford?
For Marcus Smart,
Oh,
he
sorry.
played 41 last game.
Yeah, so I do buy into the playing time for Smart. I was really happy to see the 41 minutes because I thought going into that game it was kind of difficult to project him because he'd been dealing with an injury. His playing time in the series, we hadn't really seen him play huge minutes, but you know that Boston wants him to play huge minutes. And so it was good to see him get out there and play 41 minutes. I feel pretty confident in that. When you talk about Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Horford, you know that if things go according to plan, Boston is playing them a ton of minutes. So it's really just a matter of, is the game competitive and do they avoid foul trouble? But other than that, I feel pretty confident saying, 38 plus minutes for somebody like Smart.
Nice. If he plays 38 or more, that's going to be a really nice value. It does seem, yeah, it's a little bit tough to peg down based on the one game what his minutes are going to be. But okay, Jason Tatum, I feel like saving the best for last. He hasn't been like that great during the playoffs though, as far as fantasy scoring. So I wonder if people are going to be a little bit down on him. All right, he's averaged 43 fantasy points a game. So we have him at about 50 fantasy points in the projections. So if people are going off recent history, he's not going to pay off that $9,600 price tag, but this is Jason Tatum. So which side are you landing on?
So one of the big issues with him this postseason has been the lack of rebounding. We did see a massive rebounding game from him last game without Williams. He led the team with 16 rebound chances. So I do think that's important, that the biggest thing limiting him seems to have been resolved by him not playing alongside Robert Williams last game. And now you're getting the same thing here. Those small lineups for Boston should lead to increased rebounding opportunities for Tatum. So I like that. The usage is down a bit in this series. I think that's by design, not Boston's design, but I think Milwaukee is probably doing what they can to force people other than Jason Tatum to beat them. So I'm not expecting the usage to necessarily skyrocket anytime soon, but there is still plenty of upside for him. He's such a good player. The issue that I think I'm going to run into on Tatum is that he's getting ownership. If he were like 25% owned and we were projecting people to see the slate the same way I do, then I would say, oh, well, I like Tatum at low ownership because the ceiling is so high. But if Tatum's going to be just as popular as guys like Drew Holiday and Jalen Brown, who do save me a little bit of salary, let me get a little bit more upside elsewhere in my lineups, I think I'm going to end up going to those guys more than I am Tatum, as long as the ownership holds where it is.
Fair enough. All right. So we've covered all the guys in Boston. Peyton Pritchard is the only other guy in the rotation. I don't think he's a DFS play really. So any final thoughts on the Celtics here?
No.
Okay. All right. So sponsor of the show, Odd Shopper. It's all about making your best bet in 30 seconds or less. So when you go to the site, we got all the different types of bets that you're looking for, with like props, game lines, along with our projections to accompany those to help you identify ones that are good spots. So make sure to go to Odd Shopper. And one of our cool features is the parlay builder. Like one of the advantages of DFS over sports betting is you can win those huge prizes, but you can also do that by making parlays. I mean, if you parlay a few like home run props together, you can easily get to $1 million payout. If you want to go for like that real go for broke, but have that chance at a life changing win. So I got a lot of cool stuff on Odd Shopper. Like any kind of better you are, one that just kind of like wants to go for some easy wins, or someone who wants to go for some of those higher odds bets. So check out oddshopper.com. All right. Golden State. We okay, so the only injuries here, Payton and Iguodala continue to be out. So one of the bizarre things has been Golden State starting Camengo in the first half and then starting Otto Porter in the second half, 2 games in a row. So it does kind of harken back to the days where Zaza Pachulia was the starter for the Warriors and he was going out for like 16 minutes a game. So I don't know, do they just like starting a guy and not playing the minutes? Like what's going on with Camengo?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I'm guessing Porter starts today, but I kind of thought that would be the case last game as well. The fact that Camengo didn't even play at all in the second half makes me think that Porter starts, but I really don't think it matters either. Like if Camengo starts, I'm still expecting he plays 10 to 12 minutes on average, and it's not going to make him look that good. And I'm still expecting Porter to play 24 to 26, so he's going to look fine, 4,200. And I think that's whether Porter starts or not. So I'm not overly concerned about what they do there.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it matters because we're probably not playing Kuminga, but is there any potential to make a lineup shift tonight, or is that something that you're trying to anticipate when building your lineups?
As far as who starts,
Yeah.
I'm not too worried about it just because I don't think the minutes change much one way or the other.
Yeah, that's fair. It seems like Otto Porter has been one of the big beneficiaries of minutes. He's been getting in the mid 20s recently. So he's kind of one of the guys on the Warriors that's been a little bit unexpectedly standing out. But his production, he's been getting a lot of assists, not as much usage. So I guess he has the ball in his hands a decent amount. He actually rebounds a ton for this team with a rebounding percentage of 16% on the defensive end in the playoffs, which is a little bit surprising. So how are you feeling about Porter?
He looks like a decent value. The usage, obviously is going to be low, but he just contributes across the board. Like you said, he rebounds well, he gets assists. 4,200 I think is a reasonable price tag. I'll be interested to see, where ownership ends up between him and Pat Connaughton, who's $400 less expensive. Right now we have them almost identical. So I was going to say that whichever one's lower owned, I would actually kind of prefer in tournaments. But right now we have them at 22.9 and 22.8%. So that's not really helping anything. But I think that makes sense where he's just kind of there. I think he's going to fit into lineups easily. He doesn't look wildly underpriced to me, but I think that he's a solid value option.
Awesome. Now, what about the Warriors? I guess we're burying the lead here. Let's start with Steph Curry. I mean, he's one of the GOATs, but he isn't quite the same fantasy producer as like a Giannis, but he does have a high price. So 9,500 tonight. A little bit of a negative value on a points per dollar standpoint based on our projections. What's your general feeling about Curry tonight?
I feel pretty similarly to Curry as I do Tatum. The only difference is that Curry's not getting the same ownership. Tatum's at 36%, Curry around 25%. So you are at least getting a little bit more reward for your risk if you go to Curry at the lower ownership and you get that, typical or, stereotypical Steph Curry game where he just, knocks down 8-9 threes and wins you a slate. But the thing that's still going to be difficult is that I just think that Jalen Brown, Drew Holiday, other guys look like better values, and their ownership isn't drastically different. So I'll probably just end up getting to them a little bit more. The other thing for Curry that does differentiate him from Tatum a little bit is that he's one-dimensional in terms of scoring. If we assume that Tatum continues to rebound at his normal rates now that Williams is not playing, then you're getting, a higher rebound percentage for Tatum. Curry gets assists, but not like at a crazy high rate or anything. He's around 28%. So I think that they're similar in terms of being kind of difficult to get to at their price points, and they give you massive ceilings because of how good they are. But from a roster construction standpoint, I still think it's kind of tough for me to prioritize them just because of how much I like guys that are a little bit less expensive.
Yeah, definitely. It is a little bit tough to get to Curry at his price, but certainly a guy that I feel confident once he does end up in my lineup. Now, one thing I thought it was funny is I saw some people like talking about how Klay Thompson was getting too many minutes compared to Jordan Poole and Steph Curry, and I'm like, dude, this is like freaking Klay Thompson. Like, how can you be like complaining about this? Like, he's an amazing NBA player.
Yeah,
So
he's lost a step though.
yeah, you don't think he's been performing quite as well in the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, 42.5% true shooting in this series, but also only a 21.5% usage rate. I mean, he's still going to play a lot. The issue I have with Thompson at this price is, I mentioned Curry being one dimensional, and that was kind of relative to other expensive players. Thompson is one dimensional. Like he needs to score. He doesn't typically rebound at a high rate. He doesn't get a lot of assists. And in this series, he only has a 21.5% usage rate as well. You certainly can still get a game where he just goes out there, gets hot and lights it up. But it's not like you're getting any sort of a discount on him at this price tag. I would actually rather get in this price range to Jordan Poole, who, even though he's coming off the bench, I expect him to play 32 to 34 minutes, assuming that the game's competitive. He has a higher usage rate in the series. He does a better job of getting assists, so he's not as scoring dependent, and he's also a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, Jordan Poole certainly has been fantastic in this postseason. And his minutes are a little bit lower because he does come off the bench. But let's see, over the playoffs, he's had a 24% usage rate, 24% assist percentage. Now, I think some of those numbers are buoyed a little bit by playing without Steph for the first few games. But do you see him as a good option tonight, Jordan Poole?
Yeah, still more of like a secondary option, but if you need somebody in that price range, I think he's fine. Even from Golden State, though, I do think that I probably get to more Wiggins, get to more Porter, probably get to a little bit more Draymond, just because they are a little bit cheaper. Porter, relative to the salary, again, like I don't think Porter looks great, but I just think that salary is useful in building lineups, helping you get another, good player into your lineup. Whereas Poole, I'm not really sure. Like he's expensive enough where I'm not sure how easy it is to get him into lineups without losing somebody like a Drew Holiday or a Jalen Brown. So I think that he's reasonably priced, but I think I just end up getting more exposure to some of these guys that are a little bit less expensive.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's a little bit tough to land on Poole tonight, but certainly has a lot of upside. Now, Andrew Wiggins, certainly not the flashiest name, but he's getting big minutes. He played almost 40 in the last game. He's rebounding a little bit more in the playoffs. Not a huge usage or assist guy with so many stars on this team, but what's your general sentiment about Andrew Wiggins in DFS tonight?
He looks good to me, and it kind of concerns me because I think I'm a bit higher on him than most people. But he's been rebounding at a high rate, really throughout the postseason, but also in this series. He's not a high usage guy. His usage rate in the series is around 20%, but he's also playing big minutes. He's averaging about 35 minutes per game in the series, but this is also a series where you've had, a couple of blowouts. If this game's competitive, it's likely that you're getting upper 30s in minutes again. He's only 6K. He played 39 minutes last game. So far in this series, he's at 0.93 DraftKings points per minute, which, is certainly fine. So I think it's 6K, and with small forward eligibility as well. I get to a lot of Wiggins here, I think.
Yeah, I think he looks like a good play. That 6K price tag, like that really does kind of fit in any lineup. So I think Wiggins is quite solid here. Now, what about Draymond Green? He's a guy that I feel like he's really underperformed in the playoffs as far as fantasy. Like, let's see. I had the numbers up before, but man, I'm lagging here. All right, Draymond Green, he's averaged 25 fantasy points a game. That's really bad for his salary of 6,200, but we haven't projected at 31. So we're thinking that's kind of fluky, that recent performance. Where do you stand on that? And do you feel like he's a good guy to buy low?
So I'm kind of torn on Green because we know he's a low usage guy. He rebounds well. He gets a lot of assists. He leads the team with a 26.4% assist percentage in this series. And he hasn't been playing a ton of minutes, but he's also been in foul trouble frequently. So like if he's able to avoid foul trouble and this game's competitive, it wouldn't be surprising if you did see him get up to 36 minutes or something like that, even though he hasn't played it yet. From a projection standpoint, I think 33, 34, something like that makes sense. But he's also getting about 33% ownership right now. So it's not like you're getting, or at least you're not projected to get an ownership discount because of him not being good recently. It seems like people are still just going there. And so it doesn't seem like there's a ton of value in, getting him at that ownership. Like, I don't think he's really under owned, but he is still just a reasonable value option. Wiggins is projected for a little bit less ownership though, and he's a little bit cheaper. So I do think I probably, given that, just end up getting to Wiggins a little bit more.
Nice. All right, so I think that pretty much covers the Warriors. The only guy that you could consider is Kevon Looney. Definitely doesn't really stand out compared to Steven Adams on the other side, but would he be a guy that you would take any chances on?
I mean, he had a good game last game, but he still only played like 15 minutes. I know somebody had super chatted and asked about Kevon Looney. Arturo Valdez had said thoughts on Looney's value if Adams starts. I don't think it changes a lot. Like, Adams started last game. They didn't go back to Looney. Looney still only played 15 minutes. So I think you're probably getting 15 to 16 minutes from Looney. I think that it makes him project for around, 5x. So it's not like it's a horrible value, but there's also just so much good other value on this slate that I don't think he ends up being anything more than a secondary option.
Nice. Thanks, Arturo, for that super chat. We also got a super chat from Kid Stu. Excuse me. DK tiers, JB/Drew. Smart, Brooks, Tyus. So I'm a little bit confused. Oh, because these guys are in the same tier. So first is JB or Drew. Do you have a lean there? Jalen Brown.
Yeah, two of my favorite plays. Slight lean to Drew.
Okay. Yeah, I think that one's super close. I think both guys have been playing about equally well too. So I think that you could flip a coin there. Smart, Brooks, or Tyus. I feel like okay, so this is tiers, so we're not really considering salary. In our projections, Tyus is at 35, Smart's at 31, and Brooks is at 35. So that would kind of lean towards Brooks or Tyus over Smart. What's your feeling?
Yeah, I think it's Brooks for me, and then just don't watch the game or consume a lot of alcohol or something while you do.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's definitely my plan, both with Brooks and with the alcohol. So we'll get into Memphis, but first I want to talk about the Awesemo Hall of Fame. It's a good way to get a shout out on our shows and also a free month of Awesemo Plus. So what you have to do, get the awesemo.com/avatar. Of course, you gotta have Twitter if you're a DFS player. So tweet your win at Awesemo HOF, and then you get your free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. So it's a free $120 value, and you just have to finish first first through third in a contest with 5,000 or more people. Hopefully, not too many ties. All right, we got Sean Zahn. He's one of the guys behind the scenes doing a lot of projections, tools, and a lot of other awesome stuff for the site. You can go on the game plan videos and see some of his tutorials. He's been on fire in MLB, man. He's won 300 Ks in 3 weeks. So yeah, it's funny because Sean, like 3 years ago, we were looking at Sean's lineups in MLB and we were like, damn, how does he do this? Because he had this like totally different strategy where he was like picking all the cheap pitchers and the expensive stacks. And he like kind of set a trend in the industry. And now we're lucky to have him on our team working with him. So congrats for the third 100K, Sean. We got Jordan Lockhart. He tied for first in the shoot around last night for a smooth 37K. Pretty sick for a $15 buy-in. And Jordan's been, he's always sweetened us with a win here and a win there. He won like 40K in golf last week or something crazy. So Jordan, keep crushing it, man. We appreciate you. Mikey, Banff Dodgeball. he finished first in this NASCAR $4 contest for 20K. So that's a killer takedown. Congrats to Mikey. And shout out to our NASCAR guys behind the scenes. He tweeted at Awesemo NASCAR. It's a lot of Phil, a lot of Chris Pennell. So those guys are giving some awesome advice on our channel. Ben P, back-to-back days tweeting at Awesemo HOF. Single entry nonetheless. Nonetheless, a $1,500 takedown for, I think that's the $5 one. So killer ROI. A nice job picking that single lineup, man. Congrats to Ben. Jacob, first big win. He finished first in the block on FanDuel and the shot for 2,400. Congrats to Jacob. And we got Chad, third time getting top 3 since joining Underdog 3 weeks ago. Thanks to Awesemo NBA team, Laffy, Ship My Money, Greg, Eric, Josh. So Underdog, it's you just like do snake drafts for players. So it's a totally different game, a lot of strategy, and you can use the projections to get the advantage there. So congrats to Chad for taking down $1,500 on Underdog. All right, so go to awesemo.com/avatar to get that avatar if you want a chance at winning this free month. All right, last team, probably the most important team of the day, Memphis, because Ja Morant is out for the rest of the playoffs. Could be anywhere from one game to a lot of them. So they got to win. They're down 3-1, so they got to win them. But everyone's looking at Steven Adams and Tyus Jones as the plays of the day. They both crushed their last slate, and their prices haven't risen to accommodate their new roles. So are Tyus Jones and Steven Adams guys that you're feeling really confident in today?
Yeah, like Jones is good, and even though you kind of mentioned at the top of the show, but even though the salary came up to 4,900 on DraftKings and 5,700 on FanDuel, he's started like 23 games this regular season without Morant. He's averaged about 0.96 DraftKings points per minute in those games. Played about 40 minutes last game. 41 minutes, doesn't have to do that again. Even if he plays like 36, he's going to look good, but there's a good chance that he plays more than that, gets to 38 to 40 again, especially in a game that Memphis has to win. So I think he still looks really good, even at the elevated price tag. And then Adams on FanDuel looks fine. Like if he plays the same minutes he did last game, he's still a good value there. The risk is just at 5,300. If for any reason he does play like 18 or 20 minutes, you're probably in trouble. On DraftKings, you don't have that risk at 3,400. Like even if he does play 16 or 18 minutes for any variety of reasons, he's still going to be most likely be a good value at 3,400. If he plays anywhere close to what he did last game, he's obviously the best value on the slate. So be going right back to him, and I would assume every lineup.
Nice. Yeah. Tough fade, especially like when Adams has started this season, he's averaged about 25 minutes a game. So it wasn't any fluke that he got good minutes last game. Although I know a lot of us, including me, were kind of expecting him to just get those Xavier Tillman minutes. That wasn't the case. And maybe it has to do with like different combos of players they like. But I think it's safe to project Steven Adams for like it's somewhere in the 20s, which makes him a killer value. And Tyus Jones, he played 41 minutes. So like I wasn't expecting quite that much, but even if you think he's going to play like 36 or something, he's looking like a killer value. We got a super chat from Oliver. He says F, Mary, kill Derek White, Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton.
Easy.
Okay, who are you killing?
Grayson Allen.
I would kill Connaughton because I think everyone's overestimating like how likely he is to succeed, in my opinion. But Grayson Allen's kind of the pivot, so
yeah,
that'd be my Mary.
So from a personal standpoint, it's Grayson Allen. I think DFS, like if it's projections, like if we're just going off projections, I still think it's Allen. But I do agree with you. As a tournament pivot, he makes some sense. But I'll still go with killing Grayson Allen.
Okay. So that was a good thought experiment. F, I guess, would be the reigning one. All right. Man, I feel like I'm in middle school on a trip or something. Like I haven't played these campfire games in a long time. Should we do Never Have I Ever next? But anyway, all right. So with Ja Morant out, a lot of other guys are probably gonna have to pick up the slack. So who do you think is most likely to do that of guys other than Tyus Jones and Stephen Adams?
Well, I think Dylan Brooks will try. Um, Whether or not those shots go in, who knows? But Brooks at 5,600 still just looks like a really good value. He should play a lot of minutes for defensive reasons, if nothing else. The only kind of risk outside of like foul trouble is maybe if he comes out shooting really poorly again, you do see D'Anthony Melton get steal minutes from him, since Memphis kind of just has to do anything they can to win here. But at the same time, if Dylan Brooks didn't get benched in game last game, I really don't know that it's possible for him to get benched with how poorly he played. So he's still underpriced at 5,600. Jaren Jackson, if he can avoid foul trouble, should play a lot of minutes here. He has about a 30% usage rate without John Morant on the floor this year. He had about a 29% usage rate last game, and he has done a better job in this series of not fouling. And I think it is just a easier matchup for him not to get in foul trouble. Not to say that he won't, because he's still Jaren Jackson Jr. He still manages to find ways, but I do think that he's likely to play a bunch of minutes here. And I wouldn't be surprised either if he does happen to pick up early fouls. I wouldn't be shocked if they try and let him play through it, just because they do need his offense without Morant out there. You don't have the luxury of just throwing him on the bench. So I expect Brooks and Jackson to carry a lot of the load. Desmond Bane's a really big question mark to me, and I'm actually curious where you're at on it, because we know he's playing through a back injury. And I typically don't worry about that too much from a DFS standpoint, as long as the injured player's rates are in line with what I expect them to be. Like if he's just shooting poorly, it's easy to say, oh, well, it's because he's hurt, when it could just be random bad luck. But Bane's rates are way down. Even last game, he had a 10% usage rate. His rebounding percentage is down in this series. His rates are signaling that he's just not all there. And so that is actually a pretty big concern to me, especially because he's still getting ownership. People played a lot of him last slate. I assume he's going to be popular again today. Right now we have him at 39%. So, if I was confident that, like, if projections across the industry were giving me the impression that everybody's down on Desmond Bane and not going to him, then I'd be really interested in just saying, okay, well, maybe he's feeling better. He bounces back. He's low owned, and he ends up playing well. But if he's going to be close to 40% owned, I am legitimately concerned about just how uninvolved he's been.
Yeah, I'll get to the Bane in a sec, but thanks first, Jordan, $100 super chat, Jordan Lockhart, of course. So congrats again. He says, gotta chuck it up with the boss man Adam running the show. Appreciate you guys. Good luck to the Awesemo members tonight. Let's take them all down. Yeah, let's run it back. Hopefully I'll be up there tying with you, Jordan, this time. So appreciate that super chat. All right, with Bane, yeah, I think the injury is like a concern, but John Morant being out is a reason we would think his rates would increase. So that seems like it's going to counteract the fact that he's a little bit hurt a little bit. So yeah, his usage is down to 17% from 23% this year, and his assists are down to 9%. But I feel like there's a lot of usage that's going to be spread around, because John Morant has a 33% usage rate. Tyus Jones is only at 18%. So that means 4 guys are going to get 15% usage split between them, basically, whenever Tyus Jones is on the court instead of John Morant. So it does feel like Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks are probably the two most likely to benefit the most, because they have a little bit more ball handling capabilities, where a Jaren Jackson Jr. type tends to score a little bit more with the ball in their hands. So I think his usage is still going to go up, but not quite as much. So I'm kind of torn because of the conflicting factors, where his usage has been way down due to injury, but he's also in a good spot. So at the same time, he's playing the minutes, so the coaches have confidence that he's playing well, even if it's just because he's better at defense. What are you thinking?
So the other concern I have is that he's actually played 103 minutes without Morant this postseason, and he still only has a 15.9% usage rate. So, like, I think the injury is a pretty big deal here. Like, obviously, I don't know how he's feeling today. If the thing that scares me is that if Desmond Bane just feels better today, he'd be one of the best plays on the slate. If there's no injury concern or whatever, and you're just coming in and looking at what he's done this year without Morant, he'd clearly be one of the best plays on the slate. My concern is just that, like, no matter what you look at, this postseason, if you take Morant off the floor, if you just look at everything overall, like his rates are just down across the board. And I think it's really, really affecting him. And then the ownership is there. If the ownership weren't there, then it would be like, okay, let's gamble on what could be one of the best plays on the slate. But I think there's a legitimate issue here. And if 40% of the field is going to play the guy, I don't really know where my advantage is in ignoring that. I think that there's a big issue here.
Definitely. I mean, I think that Dylan Brooks is a good pivot in that situation because, like, I feel like Dylan Brooks is going to be popular among the people using projections, but like every time I go on Twitter, I see people talking trash about Dylan Brooks and how he can't make any shots. So I'm like, when we're looking at the ownership projections, I know Dylan Brooks is ahead of Bane, but it does feel like Brooks is a much safer play even despite that. So not that it has to be one or the other, but
I like Jackson as the pivot. I think
nice.
you see a lot of the usage go there. He's only getting 25% ownership or 26% on DraftKings compared to, Bane at 38, compared to Draymond Green, who's $500 less expensive at like 33%. And if he can stay out of foul trouble, like they need Jaren Jackson in this game. And I think he picks up a lot of the offensive workload.
Agreed. Yeah, Jackson's certainly a good idea to play in DFS. All right, now two guys that have been kind of deprioritized. One was really surprising, and I know a lot of us got killed on D'Anthony Melton last game. He only played 9 minutes, so that was a disappointment because you thought with Morant out there'd be a lot of guard minutes. However, that didn't come to fruition. So, what do you think happened with Melton? He's 4,500, so we're taking a big risk if we play him in DFS.
Yeah, Melton and to a lesser extent Clark are two guys that to me I have absolutely no confidence in. Melton because he only played 9 minutes last game. Clark because he's played like 16 or played 11 last game, played 15 or 16 the game before that. But they're such good point per minute guys that at low ownership on a 2-game slate, they can just absolutely be slate winners if the rotation goes differently. Clark, I think, is hurt by Adams being back in the starting lineup. I think that you're going to see a similar rotation where Adams plays into the 20s, like you had said, barring foul trouble. Jackson gets a bunch of minutes at center as well. But if Jaren Jackson were to foul out, like if you get one of those games where Jackson fouls out in 22 minutes or something, you probably do see Brandon Clark pick up some more minutes and end up being a good option. So very, very volatile, very low floor, but at virtually no ownership, kind of interesting. And then Melton, it's just weird. I mean, we've seen time after time this season when Taylor Jenkins has opportunities to give D'Anthony Melton minutes, he finds other things to do. It was really weird here, though, because in this series, Melton had been playing like mid-20s in minutes with John Morant in. Then Morant goes out, and you get 9 minutes from Melton, all in the first half, didn't play at all in the second half. I have no idea how many minutes he plays here, but if for one reason or another, whether it's Dylan Brooks gets in foul trouble, Dylan Brooks gets benched, Desmond Bane's back flares up and he comes out of the game, whatever it may be, if D'Anthony Melton somehow gets 24 minutes here, you're talking about a really high upside guy that's getting like 4% ownership. I mean, this guy was like 40 or 50% owned last slate, and then now he's getting no ownership just because, and obviously it's a good reason he played 9 minutes, but just because of the rotation in one game, you're talking about somebody just going from 50% owned to nobody has it.
Yeah, I agree. I think the needle has swung too far in the other direction, so it's tough to be like D'Anthony Melton's the key to tonight's slate because like you can't have that kind of confidence in a guy after he plays 9 minutes. But he is someone that like I do want to have in some lineups just because it seems like sometimes like fluky stuff happens and like it seems inexplicable that he got 9 minutes last game based on the last 3 games before that. So he's a buy low for me. Brandon Clark's kind of interesting. Kyle Anderson, I think a lot of people are going to be interested in after last game. He kind of crushed it, but I'm a little bit hesitant just because he didn't get that many minutes. Like he played 15 minutes in the first 3 quarters, and then he got 7 minutes in the last quarter. So I could see that easily ending up with him playing 17 minutes instead of 23. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the concern on Anderson is, like you said, he closed that game. He was playing well. I do think that he fits well, in this series, in this matchup. And I liked him last slate, which is one reason why I'm not super hesitant to go back to him, but the salary did jump like $1,000 as well. I think you need all of those 22 minutes from Kyle Anderson. And if he does play 16, you're probably in trouble. So I do think he's risky. I mean, he's getting 10% ownership, so I don't mind him as a pivot to like Otto Porter, for example. You know, we have that's how I think Anderson is best used here. You know, he's not as safe, for lack of a better word, as guys like Connaughton or Porter, but you're just going to see, you know, 2 to 3 times the ownership go there. So in individual lineups, if you do need to save some ownership, Kyle Anderson makes some sense.
Definitely. All right, guys. Hopefully you picked up some good tips here. And we got a full hour and a half taking you all the way up to lock with Eric and Greg. So guys, thanks for supporting the channel, and good luck tonight, and stay tuned.
What's going on, everybody? It is the Awesemo NBA Live Before Lock show. We're sponsored by Odd Shopper today. And once again, just absolutely fire beats by Jordan Klein, the best producer and music maker at the entire company. For Jordan, because he's so good at creating music, like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel because, once again, Jordan is so good at making and producing music, hitting the play button. Eric, that was not all right. Everybody, unlike the video. What's going on, Eric?
Oh, I'm doing great. Sorry, I'm always in a good mood. It's always weird because I can always tell. There's always something in the atmosphere where I'm like, in the next 84 minutes, I'm going to make Jordan Klein smile. I think the thing that would make him smile is smashing that like button right now. But I can always tell when something's going on with my friend Jordan Klein. And I don't know. Are we good today, Jordan? Are we okay? We're okay? Are you sure? Because here's the thing. It's generally I get happy-go-lucky. Hey, my two favorite guys. I hang out with you all the time. Hey, what's going on? And here's what we got before the show. You guys ready to go? Here, I'm going to go live. I'm going to be live. That's
a good point, Jordan. What's going on with you?
Yeah. What the hell? I don't believe him.
All right. Yeah. I don't know sign language. I don't know what this means, but whatever it is, thoughts and prayers with Jordan Klein, whatever it is that he's dealing with at the moment. And we ourselves have a basketball slate to talk about. So I want to start by opening up by asking you about this, Eric. We just had, not just, but relatively recently, Robert Williams was ruled out for the Boston Celtics. He didn't play last game either. He wasn't considered likely to play today. Wasn't all that surprising he was ruled out. The Celtics said they want to be really cautious with him. I assume if this series goes to game 7, they'll have him out there and give it a go, regardless if he's 100% or not, because it's game 7. But at least for now, with a little more wiggle room, they've opted to leave him out. With him out of the picture, who on Boston do you think benefits the most? Because I'm putting a lot of thought into this.
I'm putting a lot of thought into it too, because I think on FanDuel especially, we get tags on guys like Derek White, where I think if you can get to some of him, if you can play some Grant Williams sub 5K, if you can do some of that, it becomes a little bit easier. On DraftKings, I still think because of Tyus Jones and Steven Adams, I don't have to go overboard with Boston. But I think on FanDuel, I really want to. We saw an 8-man rotation. We saw Grant Williams play 25 minutes, and it was foul trouble that really kept him off of the floor from playing a more meaningful route. Now, Derek White got up to 34, and I don't expect that tonight. But even if you make it like 28-28 for them, I think Derek White's coming in under-owned on both sides. I think Grant Williams is coming in under-owned on both sides. And then I think Jason Tatum, just in terms of at home, Jalen Brown, just another guy that I think is underpriced for what he's capable of being for that ceiling. I find this team to be kind of the one that I want to get to more than what the field does. I think Memphis, it's kind of a jam situation for Adams on DK and Tyus Jones once again. But FanDuel specifically, I am finding myself trying to get onto as much Boston as I can because it's essentially like a 7.5-man rotation if you count Peyton Pritchard.
Yeah. So, I mean, well, let's see. What are the, and also, where's the last game? So Derek White, here was what I want to say. So Derek White ended up playing, like you said, well north of 30 minutes last game. But there's a couple of factors that went into that. The biggest one was Jalen Brown getting into foul trouble. That's what really bumped up those minutes for Derek White. And then also with Robert Williams being out, they played really small. And then also Daniel Tice sucked. He could not have been worse. Daniel Tice came out, took a few, I think he took like 4 shots really quickly, missed all of them. And they were like, all right, we're kind of done playing you minutes, but he's going to be in the rotation. I don't think it's anything super meaningful. If you're playing showdown on DK and you need somebody for he's 1K and it's reasonable if you project him for 10 minutes, but for main slates, I wouldn't be considering them. And then also, like you said, Grant Williams ended up playing 24 minutes, but what is your expectation for Derek White's playing time?
So again, I said that if you make it like 28, because you had Jalen Brown, you had Grant Williams, both of them in foul trouble. I mean, this is something where, again, on FanDuel, we have to talk about him. We have to talk about Melton being guys that kind of sit at that same 4,400 kind of tag, 4,400 for Melton, Derek White, 4,300. I want to get to a little bit of both of them just because I think they're going to be under-owned relative to what that situation could be. And I think Melton is maybe the guy that I'm trying to talk myself into getting more of, but he's already at 12.5% on FanDuel, where I think he has more utility. On DK with Adams, with Tyus Jones, I'm finding myself more into the 5-6K range. There's certain guys that I'm making more of a strong case for there. I'm also going to get up to Giannis. I'm going to play more Tatum, I think, than Brown is kind of the route I'm going for DK. And then Al Horford, I think, is just kind of an unavoidable piece in some lineups, even though at 7,300, I don't want to completely go overboard at 30+% there as well. But Derek White right now, I have him for 24.5 minutes. I'm curious where you have him now.
Yeah, so I gave Derek White 26 minutes, and I think there's a really wide sliding scale. Also, because he could just come off the bench and play well, and they want to give him extended minutes. But I think that he probably has the widest range of outcomes of anybody with Robert Williams out, and he could also end up not benefiting at all. He could go right back to the role that he played before, and nothing could really change. But as a value option, I really like him just based on the upside, and at least in the latest ownership projections, he's not expected to be all that popular.
Nope, he's not. I mean, it's the same case for Melton.
Oh, never mind. We actually just got an ownership update. So never mind. Take that back. He's very popular now.
There you go.
Everything is no longer true. Derek White went from not popular to very popular in the last 2 minutes.
Well, yeah, because you get updated. I mean, the other thing, too, that I'm expecting to have happen is that Daniel Theis, what is he at? 5.4%. Daniel Theis, you said it, could not have played worse. I believe he's like 5 for 36 from 3 in his playoff career. That's not ideal. Played 11 minutes. They ended up benching him for the rest of the time. 0 for 5, over 2. He's 3,600 on FanDuel, and it is hard for me to find anybody sub 4K that's remotely in play over there. And again, I'm playing a lot on both sites, and I know that we end up talking a lot about DK, which is why I'm leading with FanDuel a little bit more, kind of finishing up some of my lineups there. But your options there are a Jonathan Camengo, who's been starting, but literally playing 0 minutes. It would seem like he's just playing such a limited role. Wesley Matthews, who's going to play a lot, but the lowest fantasy point per minute guy on the slate at 0.49 FanDuel points per minute. Zaire Williamson, who isn't much better, 0.64. And I don't know what those minutes are going to look like. And then George Hill, Peyton Pritchard, who kind of play those limited roles as well. Daniel Theis is the one guy who could maybe step into some kind of like a low teens minute role, backing up Al Horford. I don't expect Al Horford to play as good as he played the last couple. I don't expect Daniel Theis to play as bad as he's played. Maybe that gives you like 14 from Theis, 16. That might have some utility if you're zeroing out that salary at 3,600.
All right, let's get to some super chats, because we just got a few of them came in. First from our guy, Jordan Lockhart, who's once again been on a heater, crushing lately. Yeah. He's been tagging us in all kinds of stuff. If there's an Awesemo Hall of Fame, but if there's a first ballot Hall of Fame, or if there's, the different wings of the Hall of Fame, he would go in whatever, like the elite wing of the Hall of Fame is.
The Mount
Jordan
Rushmore
Lockhart
of the
left
Hall
us.
of Fame.
What was that?
The Mount Rushmore of the Hall of Fame, if you will.
Yeah, the Mount Rushmore, the double plaques, all the accolades. Jordan Lockhart has them. So we left us a super chat. Good karma. Let's go, Eric and Greg. And For the Beach by @Jordan Klein. I love when people shout out all the beats Jordan makes. He deserves credit for that. Super chat from Michael McKinney. Who are the 5 must plays in FanDuel Cash? And thanks in advance.
Okay, well, Tyus Jones, click. Steven Adams, click. Dylan Brooks, click. Klay Thompson, click. Giannis Antetokounmpo, click. How'd I do? Desmond Bane, you probably too. Bonus round, 6 of them.
I don't think Steven Adams is a must play in cash games.
It's 5,300. 5,300. Not a must play. The other ones are complete must. Dylan Brooks, Tyus Jones, Klay Thompson, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Desmond Bane are all must plays. Those 5 are.
I mean, to be honest, there's only 3 guys I would view as must plays in cash games, and it's Brooks, Giannis, and Tyus Jones. There's if you told me you had because if you told me you played a cash line that didn't have Steven Adams, I would say okay, that's totally reasonable. Let me see. So my highest projected lineup doesn't have Steven Adams in it.
Okay, that's fair. I just think that I would probably build with him out. I don't know. I'm not playing cash, so I don't have to think about it. But
yeah.
I am pretty confident Brooks, Jones, Thompson, Giannis, Bane, those 5 would be in it.
Yeah. In terms of just the phrasing must plays, the only 3 I'd say are absolute must plays are Brooks, Giannis, Tyus Jones. Like I said, the other guys you mentioned, I think are all strong cash options, but not guys I would consider to be in the must play category. Super chat here from Vince, 1979 Gator. Eric, why are you in love with Thibault? But seriously, thank you guys. Eric, you love Thibault tonight?
I think he's regarding yesterday. When did I say that I loved Thibault yesterday?
You know what happened yesterday? We got all these chats about who we liked for min price, and the answer was none of them.
And so we had to make a case for somebody, and I played 0 Thibault yesterday. What?
Why do you love him though? He's really good on defense. I like watching him play.
Yeah.
For DFS, he sucks though.
Yeah. When his team was away in Toronto, he and I were hanging out, it's just in our little bubble, or lack thereof, should I say, because he was living his life.
I don't know. Maybe he was expecting some story about like a one night stand or something. I don't know. There's something he thinks happened between. And also, he spelled fireball wrong. That's neither here nor there. Next super
Thanks
chat.
for the super chat.
Next super chat from Call Me Touch CMT. One more arm PP. I feel like that's dead. I don't know. We have to go back down that route again, but we always appreciate the callbacks and people who go back and talk about what's happened on previous shows. We appreciate you, Touch CMT. We appreciate the super chat, but I think we might go in a different direction today. I love this next super chat that we got. This is one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate from Nedu. Nedu. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Thoughts on Melton for DK FanDuel. Love the show, guys. I love Melton as a contrarian tournament option. Melton was the chalk of the Grizzlies' last slate, and the minutes just didn't end up being there for him for a variety of reasons. The number one reason that they weren't there was because he played shitty. We've also seen this a lot from the Grizzlies this year. When Ja Morant is out, and I kind of forget this all the time too, because I always fall into the same trap. But when Ja Morant is out, they don't use Melton as the backup point guard. I think they kind of prefer playing Melton alongside Morant. And then when Melton's out, they'll use, Tyus Jones will play a ton of minutes. They'll go with Kyle Anderson to play backup point guard minutes. But I don't think Melton is just locked in at playing the whatever it was, 10 minutes from last game. Because if you look at his other games from this series, game 1, he played 25 minutes. Game 2, he played 26 minutes. Game 3, he played 28 minutes. Then last game, he just played poorly. He played 10 minutes. Let me look at what the box score numbers were in that spot. Mm-hmm. Anyway, the point is Melton is projected for no ownership today. And this is the same exact spot he was in last time when he was chalk.
Yep. You're correct about all of these things. I mean, I said on FanDuel, it's him and Derek White, and I'm probably going to get onto a little bit more Bane here as far as at that 4,400, 4,300 number. And on DK, again, Tyus Jones exists at such a ridiculous number, sub 5K, still 4,900. And Steven Adams is just unavoidable at 3,400. So you look at those two plays, and it's hard for me to say that I need a ton of roster spots allocated to a guy that literally saw sub 10 minutes last game, but he's got really low ownership. If he does see the floor, he's over a fantasy point per minute player. And that's the other nice thing is you get paid off. I think I say this a lot. When you get paid, when you get minutes right out of the middle of nowhere, you want to get paid off on them, whether it's JaVale McGee, whether it's Cameron Payne, whether it's somebody like that who averages over a fantasy point per minute. And Melton falls into that category. He's really, if he were 3,500, we would still see him garner some attention. I think people would be more inclined to still take on that risk. But if 4,500 on DK, last run, he's 2.5%. So I'm with you. I will also say another thing too that could possibly help, and I'm curious what you think about this. Jaren Jackson Jr. stayed out of foul trouble until the end of that game when he started racking up a couple of them. He played 34 minutes. And I think if you don't get a guy like Jaren Jackson Jr. playing 34 minutes in that spot, that opens up some opportunity where Melton can be on the floor, because with Triple J out there, they're less likely to need to have another guy who needs to have the ball in their hand or creating shots, because he was making things happen in that fourth quarter.
Here's a bet I have for today. I have some ladder bets on Jaren Jackson Jr. points. He had a 30.2% usage rate last game. For the year, he has a 31% usage rate when Ja Morant is off the court. I think he's going to shoot a ton in the spot. He scored 21 points last game while going 0 for 7 from 3. Mm-hmm. His over-under for points today is 17.5. And then I bet him to score, I think it was 25 plus points at plus 650. And then I bet him to score 30 plus points at 12-1.
I love it. Again, so are you going to make the same case for Dillon Brooks?
I hate Dillon Brooks with such a passion.
He went 2 for 9 for 3, 5 for 19. That's just picking.
The difference is, here's the difference though. His points props are significantly higher than Jaren Jackson Jr.'s.
That's fair then. That's fair. Thank God they are, because otherwise I would have to make you make the same play on both guys, because it's the same case you just made.
Well, so a couple of things. Number one, I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is just better than Dillon Brooks.
Agreed.
But the other thing too is, at least when I looked this morning, I think the points prop line for Brooks was at 20.5 compared to 17.5 for Jaren Jackson Jr. So let me look at these alternate lines. So they are currently at now for Dylan Brooks. Yeah, so I had Triple J at 12-1 to score 30 plus points. Brooks is 8-1. And then for 25 plus points, when I had Jaren Jackson Jr. earlier, so Dylan Brooks is plus 240 to have 25 plus points. Like the numbers are so much more favorable on Jackson.
I'm with you. I want to close the loop on one thing because I'm very curious as you're building, and I know it's something that with 39 minutes left, I want people to understand. How much D'Anthony Melton are you planning on playing today? Because right now in the boom bust tool on DraftKings and FanDuel, he's got the most leverage. I think he should have the most leverage. 23.5% of the time he's working out optimal on FanDuel. Again, that's why I think I'm getting to more of him over there, because on DraftKings, 10.5% optimal. I mean, you do need like everything to still kind of go right. You need him to get back up to 24 minutes. You need him to perform well at that salary, because you have other guys, whether it's Otto Porter for cheaper, Tyus Jones for a little bit more, guys like that are all positively leveraged. Of course, I mean, Tyus Jones is just above and away for me, the guy you play the most on this slate. But I think D'Anthony Melton, how much you're choosing to play him is very important, because I don't want people to like play 20 lineups and have him in half of them or anything like that.
Yeah, so I'm rerunning because the last time I ran lineups, I didn't have the most recent ownership projections. Robert Williams is still in it. Mm-hmm. So I'm running it right now. I have 24% Melton on DK in the line I just ran, and then around 30% on FanDuel.
Yeah, so I think that's the important thing I was getting at, is like on FanDuel, I still want to get to a little bit more of him, because at that salary specifically, I think it pays off really, really nicely to be nice on that one, or to be right on that one, especially now that Derek White, oh my God, 41.1% ownership. As you were saying before, he wasn't that popular. He was around 12%. Now he's 41%. I'm going to definitely flip-flop him in Melton.
All right. So, so that's the other thing too, with that's going to change how I view Melton, is that like I said, when I ran lineups before, Derek White was not expected to be popular. Derek White was projected for like 15% ownership or something like that. Well, now he's projected for 42% on FanDuel and 43% on DraftKings. So I would like to be underweight to that number and overweight to D'Anthony Melton, who's projected for 4% ownership on DraftKings now and 13% on FanDuel. It's a very high variance play. I don't know what his minutes are going to look like, but I like the upside there.
King Reed, Melton not fundamental sound as T. Jones. Melton seems safer with Morant on court. Yeah. I mean, Tyus Jones is a really good backup, and Melton, playing alongside John Morant, Melton off the ball has been really, really good. But Melton, all you're trying to do is just hope to God he ends up on the floor, because if he is in any kind of a sample size, with or without John Morant, he's over a fantasy point per minute guy on the season. Like, just you need to get the minutes. It doesn't really matter about his fundamentally soundness or anything to that nature. We just are hoping we can get 20 plus minutes out of him. That's the reason you're playing and pulling the trigger on 25-30% of him.
Super chat from my filler arc. If you lost a bet to Bane, he would say, "It's okay, brah. No need to pay me." If you want to bet from Brooks, he'll say, "We never shook, bro." So which one should I captain in Showdown tonight? Boy, I got to tell you, I've never built lineups with that kind of logic.
I like it. Personally, it's kind of like the whole, like, do I like this as a person or do I not? It's kind of the way I feel about Patrick Reed and PGA DFS, where it's like, I absolutely despise him as a person, and I don't think he's a good person in any way, shape, or form. But then everybody devalues him as a result. The difference here is that, I think Dylan Brooks is going to be very, very popular regardless. So I'll take the Desmond Bane side of it.
I think Desmond Bane is fairly hurt right now.
I would agree with that, by the way. But I'm saying between the two of them, if you make me pick, I'll just go down with the ship and avoid Dylan Brooks in Showdown. I'm not playing Showdown for this slate, thank God. I've got some stuff to do tonight. But if I were going to be playing Showdown for that late night hammer game, I tell you one thing. I would have to really check my ego at the door when it came to playing Desmond Bane in any kind of a captain scenario, as well as Dylan Brooks. They are no doubt projecting out phenomenally well, but I think I would really try my best to make them straight out utility plays I think I still want to play as much Tyus Jones in the captain spot as possible. That still worked out decently well last slate, even though salary wasn't much of a thing. I thought I was going to win all the money on it. And then Steph just went berserk in the fourth quarter to pass everybody, and Jaren Jackson Jr. as well. But I'm pretty sure Bane, Brooks, more utility guys for me tonight.
My preference is going to be Brooks. I just don't know what the upside is of Bane right now. Here are the results he's had so far in this series. He's scored 15 fantasy points, 13, 26, and 24. And it's also like you watch him move. I don't know if your dad is a bad back. Mine does, but he kind of walks around like when Tom Hanks had the braces on in Forrest Gump. That's how Bane moves after timeouts. Dude, that's how Bane moves after timeouts right now.
He had a 10% usage rate last game. That's not ideal.
That's what he's had the entire series, though.
I know it's been really low. I mean, it's and that's what he's on the floor to do, is go out and shoot a nuclear amount. Like, you're supposed to go out and shoot if you're Desmond Bane. The fact that Dylan Brooks and JJJ have to shoot all the threes, really not what Memphis wants as opposed to Desmond Bane.
It's just hard for me to project Bane all that well when you consider his usage rates for the series are 15, 12, 17, and 10. He's not shooting a lot, and he could barely move right now. So I prefer to be underweight to Desmond Bane because, once again, I just think he's injured. So to answer my Phil Arks question, I'm going to be leaning with Brooks just because I'm afraid of the injury that we have there with Desmond Bane. All right, we're all caught up on super chats. I've got a question for you, Eric.
Are you ready? An answer. I'm ready.
Do you like money?
I do.
Do you like free money?
Yeah, I really do.
Would you like to walk into a car dealership, point at a Lamborghini, and say, I want that one?
Yes, I do, Greg.
Okay, because we have a special live before lock offer tonight for BetMGM. All you have to do is bet $10 on any NBA money line tonight. And if a 3-pointer is made in that game, you get $200. That's all you have to do. Click the link in the video description below or use the code LBLBETS and claim your $200 now, and that'll go right towards your new Lamborghini. How much do those cost?
Well, I don't know. Is Dylan Brooks the only person who's shooting the basketball tonight? Because I bet we hit this bet otherwise.
It's free money, Eric. Do you want a Lamborghini or not?
I do want a Lamborghini. Let's go. Give me that $200 right now. Let's go.
All right, there you go. And then at $200, you're going to buy a Lamborghini with it. All right.
Sounds great. I'll take
promo code LBLBETS, or click the link in the description box. But it's $200 for free. All right, we got another super chat here from Oliver Closeoff. Asked last show too. Fuck, marry, kill, White, Allen, Connaughton. I don't know how to I don't know how to correlate. Is this just based on attractiveness? Because I hate Grayson Allen.
Yeah, he's got a very punchable face, and that's coming from a Duke fan. I don't know. I've never really liked Grayson Allen. I didn't like him with Duke either. He was kind of just a headache there. Yeah, let's kill Grayson Allen. That seems like fun. I would like to shack up with Connaughton probably, and then Derek White. We're gonna go steady.
See, I'm kind of confused by the question because I'm not exactly sure so am I marrying the cash play? I'm having sex with the GPP play and then killing the fade. Is that
you are overthinking this? I'm guessing this has to do with more DFS. At least I would hope so.
But that is DFS.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm saying well, okay, just answer the damn question.
All right. I'm marrying Derek White. I have to kill Grayson Allen.
Yeah, Grayson Allen is not coming out of here alive. Let's be serious. Let's be dead serious. Grayson Allen cannot walk out that door, especially he's had it coming for a while.
And then I'm going to have dirty sex with Pat Connaughton. I'm going to pay him the $200. Yeah. I'm going to pay him the $200 just got from free from BetMGM.
Let's go, bro. Yeah. Oh, Pat Connaughton. Could have been a Major League Baseball pitcher. Fun fact.
Yeah.
You could have been the catcher.
He's about to make himself $200. All right. We're all caught.
He is.
we're all caught up on the super chats. Let's go back to the rest of the guard position. And I want to know, who are the other guards we've not yet talked about that you're prioritizing?
Avisail Garcia. Let's go. Bomb. Welcome back to my life. Sorry, I needed that. Guards that I'm prioritizing on today's slate. Have you heard of Tyus Jones?
Tell me, who is he?
He's this guy who plays backup point guard for Memphis, and I would say he's still about $2,000 too low on DraftKings. So you should play a ton of him. He's my highest owned player on FanDuel. He is my highest owned player as well. Wanted to double check, just making sure I have the right information for the people. He's just too cheap. And we've seen how many situations without Ja Morant where he's just come in and played the role perfectly. That's why they were 20-5 or whatever it was without Ja Morant going into the last game, now 20-6. Tyus Jones is nearly a fantasy point per minute guy. He's going to play a boatload of minutes. He's projected for 38 here at Awesemo today, 37.5. Played 41 last game. Did nothing in that game that would possibly get you to shy away from going there again. He's at 68%, and that's still just drastically too low. So play a lot of Tyus Jones. I also think the next guy I want to just play a boatload of, and I think is just coming in undervalued, is Marcus Smart on both sites. He's at 40%, but I really don't care. I think him and Drew Holiday are just going really, really slept on in terms of like how good of plays they are. And I know we only have so many guard spots, but like I find it so hard to get up to Steph Curry at 9,500. And I'm just going to kind of live and die by that. I find it hard to believe that 50-52 from Steph is going to completely burn me on this type of a slate. I think Jordan Poole at 6,900, I'm just a lot lower on as well for this slate specifically. But those top three, I know that they're getting the most rostership, but I think they're all somehow in some way still underowned.
Yeah, so I mean, Tyus Jones is the easy one. I don't know what it is with how DK handles him when he starts, because we saw this all year. Because there was a lot. Like I think people forget how much Ja Morant was hurt this year. He missed a third of the season, something along those lines, a quarter of the season. He missed a ton of games, and Tyus Jones just never got priced up by DraftKings in that situation. So we've seen him make a handful of starts now. We know what he should score on average as a starter, right? He's right around 30 fantasy points per game, and DraftKings like, oh, cool, 4,900. That's not the correct salary. He's like $1,000 too cheap. So I think that we have to consider him to be a really strong option. By the way, here are the numbers. Regular season, 31 minutes, 29.5 fantasy points per game for Tyus Jones. And we're probably looking at, closer to 40 minutes now. So it's just a wrong price. I think he's the best value play on the slate, and not really too much controversy in terms of that. I think that he's by far the best one to get to.
Yep. Agree. There is no way that I could possibly disagree. I mean, I have 91% of him on DraftKings. I have 87% of him on FanDuel right now.
And then
there you go.
I want to ask you how you're handling Desmond Bane, because I talked about before that I'm light on him. I'm just terrified of this back injury. He's played terribly this series, and there's a lot of times where guys just play terribly in a playoff series, and it's because they just shoot poorly or randomness over a couple game sample size. Bane, I think we could attribute it to the back injury. It's the reason he's not taking as many shots. It's the reason that he's played limited minutes in a lot of these games. I think they're going to play him as much as possible because of the elimination scenario. But I just am not getting a lot of exposure to him. Is this something that's concerning you at all when it comes to building your lineups?
Well, yeah, it concerns me, but at 6,100 on FanDuel, I mean, it's hard to imagine that a guy who traditionally is a fantasy point per minute player, maybe not in this iteration when, you're comparing him to your dad's bad back. I don't exactly like hearing that. But we project him for 34 minutes. He's going to play a lot. It's an end of season scenario type thing. He is popular. I get it, but it's just so hard not to have him in at least a number of lineups. Like if you wanted to make a strong, aggressive stand, I still think that I would want to have him in like 25% of lineups on FanDuel. I think on DraftKings, if you feel that way about him, 6,400, I still am getting to around 30% of him. So I don't want to say that I'm off of him by any means. I'm lower than 38%, but at 6,400, he can't completely destroy you. But on FanDuel, I mean, that is just such a low tag. Him and Dylan Brooks are almost just built-in safety nets on this kind of a slate. I don't really know how you get away from playing some of them.
Yeah, and by the way, because people are asking in chat, I just posted the promo code for BetMGM is LBL Bets. So it's in live before lock. LBL Bets. All. I don't know if it's case sensitive. It's written on the sheet for me as all lowercase letters. So I think I assume just all lowercase LBL Bets. Super chat from Justin Eastman. Grayson Allen or Wes Matthews for a last man in a large field FanDuel GBP. If it has to be one of those two, Grayson Allen.
If it has to be Grayson Allen, if it has to be. But here's the other thing you could do. Play neither of them.
Who do you have project for more fantasy points, Wes Matthews or Grayson Allen?
Grayson Allen.
Yeah, I do by quite a few. So Grayson Allen for me. There's a reason I killed him before, though.
Yeah, dead. I'm still so upset that at like 5K, he decided to put up a zillion fantasy points against Chicago in back-to-back games. At 5K, or whatever he was. 4,400, 4,600. I take it back. But he was 5K on FanDuel. So dumb. So dumb.
Let me see.
You okay?
I choked on my water. I tried. I was going to hit the mute button, but wasn't able to in time. All right, Grayson Allen. What did he do in that sit? I'm trying to die. I think this is the Grayson Allen thing. He knows I tried to kill him, and he's doing some underhanded. He's doing some underhanded shit to try to make me die. He's trying to get me back here. But,
you will
by the
choke
way,
on your water.
Not case sensitive. I just got word from Chris Karen. But Grayson Allen, those two games you mentioned, the first game against the Chicago Bulls, he played 25 minutes. He scored 35 fantasy points, and he played 28 minutes and scored 38, and then has promptly sucked basically every game since and every game prior.
Yep. Awesome. Great. Hate that guy.
All right. I think I've recovered. Nope, I haven't recovered. I thought I recovered. I didn't.
All right. You keep doing your thing there for 1 second, because I'll kind of like prompt this one, because I think figuring out what you want to do with the three from Golden State is pretty darn important on this slate. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and
alive.
one Jordan Poole. All right. Jordan Poole specifically, I don't know how I play him at 6,900 in any kind of a meaningful way. I have 8% of him on DraftKings right now. I just find it to be a casualty of the position on DraftKings. I know you can play him at shooting guard. Maybe that has some utility, but not really for me today. I think Klay Thompson, I just project for more. If I'm going to get a ceiling to get paid off when I get right, give me the 7,400 Klay Thompson right now over on DK even. We'll see. Something tells me he might not even be that popular, 25%, but we'll see. At 6,200 on FanDuel, he's just an absolute must type play for me. Klay Thompson is unavoidable.
Yeah. So the other thing, so a couple of guys, I don't understand what's going on with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry shooting. They're getting a ton of open shots, and they are not making any of them. Eventually, these shots are going to fall.
Yep.
Let's see. What have they shot from the field the last couple of games? I'm
A
pulling this
lot
up
for
right
a
now.
little.
All right. So Steph Curry finally made his shots in the fourth quarter last game, but still. So last game, Steph Curry went 4 of 14 from three. Klay went 0 for 7. The game before that, this was a blowout win for the Warriors. So this was slight, but still, Steph went 2 of 8 from three in a game that they won by 30 points against the Grizzlies. Game before that, Steph went. All right, so game before that, Steph goes 3 of 11 from three, and Klay goes 2 for 12. What is this nonsense? The shots are going to start falling is the point.
Yep. I'm with you. It's just, I'm going to play a lot of Klay Thompson, though, specifically. I mean, Steph on DK is just so hard for me to get to when I want to play as much Giannis as what I do, when I want to play as much Tatum as I do. I mean, Tatum is 35%, and I tuned into about 15 minutes. I know Adam was talking on the previous show about how Steph Curry is basically the under-projected version of Tatum. They're 9,500, 9,600 respectively, but Steph getting 26% as opposed to Jason Tatum getting 35%. That isn't enough of a difference to get me away from playing more Tatum, specifically because of how much Tyus Jones I have. So it's just like a positionality thing. I can't play as much Steph because of how much Tyus Jones I want to play.
Yep, I understand that. I mean, for DraftKings, I think it's easy enough to just get to something. So it's goddamn Grayson Allen. I don't know what he did to me.
I feel like this might also be Jordan Klein's doing. This might be Jordan Klein's fault because everything is, and he's not in a good mood today. Let's just confirm that Jordan Klein's not in a good mood. Something happened. Something's going on, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Can everybody let us know in chat what they think is wrong with Jordan Klein?
Pat Connaughton stand you up?
Did you
What's
only get an
happening?
$80 bottle of wine at dinner last night?
Yeah, what's the deal? Forwards. Who are the forwards that you're getting the most exposure to tonight? A lot of the guys, once again, a lot of these guys we've already talked about. We talked about Giannis as being a priority option.
Yes.
Clay has forward eligibility. We've got Dylan Brooks we've already talked about. So who are the forwards we've not yet brought up that are making into a lot of your lineups?
Giannis, Tatum, write them in. Al Horford, I'm a little bit lower on than 31% on DK right now. That's kind of a nerve-wracking feeling. Lower also on 6,200 Draymond Green, which sounds just so strange to say, but I'm playing a lot of Andrew Wiggins right now. I have 44% Andrew Wiggins. That's over the field, just, slightly over. I think he's just played very, very well, and he's going to be on the floor a lot. He matches up well with Brooks, along well with Desmond Bane. Been a good two-way player for Golden State. Wish I had seen that in Minnesota once upon a time, but alas, I did not. 38 and 39, 2 of his last 3 games. Obviously, he had the foul trouble in that game 3 it was at home. I expect him to continue to be a meaningful part of this team, and at 6K, fits in really easily, small forward, power forward eligible, just fits into a lot of lineups. And I think that coming off of guys that are a little bit cheaper and much more volatile, Otto Porter down at 4,200, a Grayson Allen at 3,900, and then guys more expensive than him, Draymond Green, Al Horford. Andrew Wiggins is kind of the guy that if I can get him right, I can get to every stud I want to. I can play all the value that I really want to. He kind of makes everything work on my board if he just continues to do what he's been doing.
So, something else we're talking about some of these forwards to get to. I'm projecting the players in the Bucks Celtics game, considering just the circumstance, to play more minutes than some of the Warriors guys. So that's something else that's impacting some of my ownership, and why I like some of the Boston, Milwaukee guys like Giannis as a pay-up option becomes so much of a higher priority over somebody like Steph, because why are the Warriors going to go play Steph 45 minutes in this game? There's no real need to. If Giannis plays 45 minutes, that would not be shocking to me.
I'd agree with that. I don't hate that way of looking at it, but also, are you just going to basically have Golden State be the team that you're punishing for it being, that's the actual closeout game. The other one, it's 2-2. And I know that everything is in play here for the next 3 games here for that series, but Memphis is going to get eliminated if they lose. So I got to expect it's an all hands on deck type situation. If somebody like Melton comes in for a couple of minutes and gets hot, he's going to ride it. Same thing about Kyle Anderson that we saw last game, where they could just ride the hot hand in certain situations. But they're also going to play their starters, the guys that have gotten them there a considerable amount of time. And so it's just hard for me to look at Golden State and just punish them because they're the one team that doesn't lose a crazy amount if they don't win tonight. They still get to go home for game 6, try to close out at home without Ja Morant on the other side. They'll be 10-point favorites again in that spot. I still think that a guy like Andrew Wiggins, I highly doubt that if he isn't in foul trouble, he doesn't get up over 36 minutes anyway.
Maybe. He's played 39, 30, 26, 38, 34 in this series. Yeah, somewhere around that spot, but still, that doesn't make him a crazy high priority play for me.
Yeah. So, is it just going to be who are the value guys? Because Tatum, Giannis are kind of a given for both of us. I think we both really, really like him. No,
I haven't really played Tatum this series much.
Interesting. I've played him maybe too much, obviously, based on the box score. But
so, the issue with Tatum is just the defensive scheme of the Milwaukee Bucks and how they play defense. So, also, if we're comparing the pay-up options, I'm basically saying I prefer Giannis by a pretty wide margin to Jason Tatum. I'm a little bit underweight to Tatum. I've been underweight to Tatum in every single game so far in the series, just because the way we've seen the Bucks defend the entire year is they take away other teams' primary options. They say, we'll let anybody else beat us. So as a result, guys like Al Horford's getting 6, 7 wide open 3-point attempts per game, because the Bucks would rather give Horford that shot than let Tatum get anything going on offense. That's just how they run their defensive scheme. So Grant Williams gets wide open looks from 3. Al Horford gets wide open looks from 3. Marcus Smart gets wide open looks from 3. And as a result, they're really putting a lot of pressure on Jason Tatum, trying to force the ball out of his hands. And we've just seen his usage is way down in the series. So Tatum this series usage is at 27%. It's not insignificant, but it's quite a bit lower than his 31% from the season. And it's also really capped his upside for DFS purposes. So I think we look at last game where his usage did come up a little bit, but I think that was just by necessity because Jalen Brown was in foul trouble, wasn't able to play all that much. But I strongly prefer Giannis to Tatum, and I do come in a little bit underweight to Tatum just because I buy into the lower usage being a result of how he's being defended.
So if by that logic, are you just jamming Al Horford?
Well, I like Al Horford a lot, but what I'm really jamming is Giannis. And Jaren Jackson Jr. I like a lot as well.
Okay. Just making sure that, and I know Jaren Jackson Jr. has been a guy you've been playing a lot more than me. Obviously, you've definitely had the better of it. Whenever he gets these minutes, we've seen some massive upside. I believe 45 plus on FanDuel in 3 of his last 5. That's useful. So I think that there's definitely something to be said about that. Depending on just schematically, I got to assume that, I don't know. I'm having such a tough time trying to figure out what I want to do with like a Brandon Clark on FanDuel, what I want to do with some of these other guys that have been such meaningful parts of the rotation. And Brandon Clark just was being played over Steven Adams until last game. And Steven Adams couldn't have played better from the jump. If he doesn't play that well from the jump, now I still think it's impossible on DK to get away from it, but I'm trying to get myself onto more Brandon Clark, onto more Jaren Jackson Jr. Like, what do you really see in like an end of game scenario here? What does Memphis really want to try to do with these bigs?
Yeah, so I mean, I only projected Brandon Clark to play 16 minutes. The last 2 games, he's played 12 and 17. And the last game he played 12, they had Steven Adams in there. Steven Adams played the fourth quarter minutes. Brandon Clark didn't. I think people got really enamored with Clark because of what he did in the first round of the playoffs, which is reasonable. But if you look at the regular season, I mean, there was games where he was a DNP coach's decision. There was games where he pretty regularly played like 15, 16 minutes. Like Brandon Clark was not a massive part of the rotation in the regular season. I think he just kind of had to be in the first round playoff series because number one, Steven Adams was unplayable against Karl-Anthony Towns, and Jaren Jackson Jr. got into so much foul trouble that they had to play Brandon Clark. So you get into this spot where just there's no Jaren Jackson Jr. because he's fouled out. There's no Steven Adams because he's unplayable against Karl-Anthony Towns. They just have nobody to go to but Clark. And then you get to the start of this series, Steven Adams in the COVID protocol. He's out. Yep. Mm-hmm. Steven Adams gets healthy again. They insert him into the starting lineup, and he's playing bigger minutes. I don't think that Brandon Clark's, pending foul trouble. Jaren Jackson Jr. gets into foul trouble. Clark is free reign. He's going to have to go do his thing.
Yeah.
But he's not somebody I'm really getting to.
Yeah, I just built a rule on Cruncher here as I'm finishing everything up. I'm not going to have Jaren Jackson Jr. and Brandon Clark in the same lineups. I think that is a foregone conclusion, but I still think on FanDuel, I do want to have some exposure to getting to some Brandon Clark at 4,500 because, as you said, Jaren Jackson Jr., not unlikely that he gets in foul trouble. It's not some foregone conclusion that he's going to get up to 34 minutes. Again, they would like that. That would definitely be a plus for Memphis because he's phenomenal on both ends of the court. But Brandon Clark, I definitely probably don't want to play him alongside any Jaren Jackson Jr. whatsoever.
Let's catch up on some super chats and we'll round up the forward position because I want to talk about Kyle Anderson for a couple minutes. First from Charles Haverson, what percentage of Steven Adams do you all have? I have him at 30% on FanDuel and 80% on DraftKings.
I have 95% on DraftKings.com. I have FanDuel. I was just rerunning my FanDuel stuff here. Yeah, 95% on DK. Why isn't this? 45% on FanDuel.
Next super chat from Nelson Resto. Not enough milk tea. I feel like that was in reference to something
Jordan
else.
Klein. Jordan Klein loves his milk tea.
Oh, does he? I don't even know.
Dude, bro, chill, man. Dude, bro, chill.
You can't do bro
totally
chill without milk tea. Yeah.
He totally likes the tea, like totally bro chill, dude.
For sure, bro. Yeah, it's a good point. Probably not enough milk tea. That'll really help you just everything in life, Jordan. I think you should look into that. My filler arc, Thompson plus Poole or Thompson plus Green. DK Dylan Brooks drank Jordan's tea when he wasn't looking. That is, I prefer Draymond Green to Jordan Poole. So Thompson Green.
Spill the tea on the tea. Let me know. I like Thompson and Green more between the two. If you had to do it there, DK Dylan Brooks drank. Yeah.
Teddy Wayman not playing today, but still watching while I enjoy my whiskey and weed. And thanks for great content, guys. P.S. Jordan needs another hit. I like that we've gotten to a point now where we could just do a show and people like not even interested in playing DFS will just sit here and listen to us talk about DFS anyway.
Honestly, that's a very strong compliment to both Greg and myself. But here's what I want for the next 10 minutes before lock. If you want good karma, spam the chat with the reasons that you love Jordan Klein. I can tell you the reasons I love him is he is my favorite Marvel character in the Marvel universe. Let me know
he
what
was
your favorite
so
reason.
Remember how good he was in
good.
Spider-Man? Oh,
So
amazing. He was so good. He had that hat he wore. Yeah, he was really good.
Did. Hey, everybody spam the chat. Let us know why you love Jordan Klein. That'd be great. I need to know.
Super chat from Ryan Nelson. Horford, Jones, and Adams are my 3 highest owned players on Yahoo. Jones and Al close to lock button. I have no issue with that.
None.
And we are caught up on the super chat. So let's talk about Kyle Anderson to round up the forward position. I think the last game was probably one of the flukier games we've seen in the playoffs because Kyle Anderson, he didn't play big minutes at all. He played 23 minutes. He shot 7 of 8 from the field in 23 minutes. He had 2 steals and 2 blocks. If you have some exposure to Kyle Anderson, cool, whatever. He's going to be over-owned today.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I love Kyle Anderson. Like as a basketball player, I absolutely love him. And I was tilting in our chat about how I've been way overweight, hoping that Memphis would at least give him some run. They didn't even give him some run. He just still completely went bonkers because that's the kind of thing that Steven Adams can do. He can be a good two-way player. It looks like he's stuck in quicksand or, on a rower with the thing cranked up to full capacity. But that is the way that Kyle Anderson plays basketball. I'm not going to be going back to the well in any kind of a meaningful way today, simply because, as you said, huge, massive outlier performance with the amount of minutes. Maybe, and this is the whole Victor Oladipo thing that other people had the other day. Maybe he's played himself into some positional run, but this is a closeout game. I have him projected for 19 minutes. Awesemo has him projected for 19 minutes. That makes it impossible. I have 0% of him on FanDuel. And on DK, I have 4,300. I have 2%. 2% in 80 lineups. Do I have Kyle Anderson? That is going to be a no from me, dog.
And once again, I think that the owner, he's not projected for very much ownership right now. He is projected for 18% ownership on FanDuel and 12% on DK. He's going to be higher than those numbers. Yep, for sure. We just, it's so hard to quantify this, but there are a lot of people that hand build their lineups and are just looking at these, be like, oh, look, Kyle Anderson did really well last game without John Moran out. Therefore, I'm going to play Kyle Anderson again. It's the same thing. Like last slate, last night, you and I were talking about what some of the Heat players' exposures were going to look like. And I said, the players who played well last game are going to pick up more ownership. The players that didn't play well the game before are going to have less ownership. I think that the play of this slate, the Kyle Anderson of last game, it's the Anthony Melton.
Chat went down a dark road. That is absurd. I was going to say, I love my Jordan Klein. When have I never loved my Jordan Klein? That's never happened. Also, 362 likes, 1,700 people. Yes, that is also off. Good call.
Yeah. So let's get some more likes up in this bitch. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Do it to make Jordan feel better.
Yes.
For each like you get, yes, Jordan will get 1 sip of his tea. 1 sip, just one.
Kermit.
He's only allowed 1 sip, but it's only for each like. So give us some likes, and then Jordan can take 600 sips of tea, and then it'll be all happy and good to go.
Typical narcissistic energy. Yeah, me. There are many things you can quantify me as. If you call me a narcissist, that is insane. That is I could not be further away from such a thing. It's not even funny. Maybe that's something a narcissist would say, though.
What else do you think about yourself?
I think that, and about that, that's about it.
All right, let's wrap up the center position. But first, don't forget, today's show is sponsored by OddsShopper. If you guys have not checked out OddsShopper yet, it's free to use, and you find all of the best bets on the board. We've got MLB up there now. We've got NBA. We've got PGA. It takes 30. I know the ad read says 30 seconds. That's an overestimation. It takes less than 30 seconds. You click on it. You go to the site. You look at the best bets. Bada bing, bada boom. You're done. You found the best bets. You go, you bet them. You make some money. That's all there is to it. It's free. So go check that out. Go to oddshopper.com. Also, if you're on Awesemo, you see it on the top right-hand corner of the page. You just click on OddsShopper. Eric and I'll be looking at that after this slate locks. And we'll look at some of our favorite bets for the day. Let's go to the center spot now. And listen, Steven Adams is a terrific value play on DK. Play him. Play Steven Adams on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I think you like him a little more than I do. But I still fine. He's 5,300, very playable price point. But outside of Steven Adams, who are the other centers you're rostering?
On FanDuel, it's a lot of power forwards that I'm rostering, I would say, over at center. I can't play Brook Lopez at 5,600. Can't really land on that. If he knocks down an eternal amount of threes, because he's done that in playoff of days of yore, if you will, so be it. He still would have to do a lot in order to surpass Steven Adams there in that regard for 300 less. I'm more inclined to play in some of my Bobby Portis. The one guy, again, Daniel Tice is 3,600, and I am going to be over the field on Daniel Tice there. I think that there's just a path to him maybe getting more than 10, 12 minutes, perhaps, if he plays decently enough. It's a price play. It's it's an access to everything else on the board type of play, but I want to try to get to a little bit there. But as I said, Jaren Jackson Jr., Al Horford, those are the guys I'm getting to the absolute most.
Yeah, I mean, so one thing on DK is look at my center exposure, and it's Steven Adams, and then it's, Giannis, Jaren Jackson Jr., Al Horford, Draymond Green. These are all guys we already talked about the power forward position that just happen to have center eligibility. Then looking over at FanDuel, well, same thing. Steven Adams, and there's Al Horford, Jaren Jackson Jr., Draymond Green. Like, there aren't other guys that I really have a desire to play at the center position. And then, of course, on DK, Steven Adams is such a ridiculously good value play that it's just hard for him to not take up one center spot in the majority of lineups.
Yep, with you.
Steven Adams, Tyus Jones, two guys between the majority of your lineup, should certainly be in cash games on DraftKings. No way around it. We have a few minutes left. I think we're all caught up on Super Chats. I'm going to check the Discord channel to make sure that we didn't miss anything in there. Do you have any other further thoughts on this late, Eric? Are there any players that are making into your lineups we've not yet talked about on the show?
Yeah, no, I'm under on Brook Lopez, way under on Grayson Allen here. He's at 11. I mean, we talked about him. We've talked about pretty much everybody. I think you're dead on. It's so hard to quantify to a certain extent exactly what the field's going to be doing with certain guys, but I can tell you one thing. You're going to see a lot of ownership on Tyus Jones and Steven Adams on DK, but it is all rightful. You should just be over top of whatever it is. That's just the approach that I'm taking on it today. You play the slate in front of you, and that's what's in front of us is pretty easy chalk plays in those two. And then Drew Holiday taking a pretty aggressive stance. Marcus Smart as well, a guy that I'm playing over the field on. I will say Grant Williams has just kind of fallen by the wayside. I thought I was going to get to more of him than I ended up getting to. Kind of surprising, but I do want to have some late swap ability to land on some guys. Make sure that you react to how your lineups ended up doing. I'm saying right now, I don't like Kyle Anderson, but there might be some paths where you have to get to certain guys that might be less popular. As you said before, he might be a guy that the field does play a lot more than what we think. But on the whole, I think that we've covered the slate pretty well. Play Giannis, play the great value, try to get different in one or two spots.
Which, outside of Steven Adams and Tyus Jones, which Grizzlies player on FanDuel and DK do you have the third most exposure to?
That's a great question. I'm assuming it's Dylan. You said outside of Adams and Tyus Jones, it's going to be Dylan Brooks. It has to be. Dylan Brooks, I have I have a lot of him on FanDuel. He's the third highest there. And on DK, I have Dylan Brooks as well. Yeah, I was just assuming that, and that's the correct assumption.
Yeah, I mean, it was probably more of a DK pertinent question than FanDuel, because I mean, FanDuel is projected for 70% ownership. Everybody's going to be playing a whole bunch of them. So yeah, Dylan Brooks, I think is he does look different on FanDuel than he does on DK, but he's a strong option on both sites. What did you end up doing with Melton?
Melton, I got to around 20% of, and
okay.
I think on DK I have 20%, and on FanDuel I have 30%. So there you go. 18% on DK, 30% on FanDuel. Okay, I just don't want to play Derek White in massive bulk right now. I just don't want to do it on FanDuel.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. When I was first building my lineups earlier, I was like, oh, there's a path for Derek White to play a bunch of minutes, and and people aren't really rostering him. And then we got the ownership up there, like, oh no, that's not true. Everybody's rostering.
Yeah, it escalated quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Things changed in a hurry. So I ended up making some pivots there and underweight to the field on Derek White, and then ended up being over on D'Anthony Melton. I thought that was the pivot to make. And we're going to find out the actual ownership in a minute, and how we'll still do, because I like how we do it when you ask me the ownership. I found that to be a fun. I know that I'm hosting now, but still, I want you to ask me. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, it's great.
All right. So we're going to hit on that in a second. But guys, don't go anywhere. I know we're at the end of the show. I know we're at lock, but for the next 30 minutes, Eric and I are going to be sticking around. We're going to be sweating the game. We're going to be going over our favorite bets on Odd Shopper. And who knows what else might happen. We also don't know when the game is going to start. Sometimes we do this. The game starts immediately at 7 o'clock or 7:01. Sometimes we're for like 17 minutes until the game starts. So, actually, in the nature of betting, an Odd Shopper, give me a prediction. What time does the game tip?
Man, yesterday it tipped off at 03. Let's go with, I'm going to say like there's going to be a longer lead in. It's ESPN today, right?
It is.
Or is it TNT?
Let's see. What day of the week is it? Who even
Wednesday.
knows? It's impossible information. TNT.
TNT. All right. Then it's going to be 15 minutes.
I'm going to say 7:03 again. I think we're getting a quickie.
Sorry, TNT. I was thinking ESPN. That's my fault. I just was asking specifically for that. It was on TNT yesterday. Yeah, I'll go with 05. All
right. That's tough. Now you're definitely going to win, though. Like I've really pigeonholed myself. That's going to be a tough because I went 7:03 and really quick. That's going to be tough for me to. It's going to be tough for me to win. All right, we are caught up on the super chats. Let's do the ownership game, Eric. Give me some names, and I'm going to guess what they are owned in the $20 on DK.
Let me pull it up here. I was pulling up FanDuel. All right, let me pull up my $20 lineups. Here we go. All right, I'm ready for you.
Okay.
It's saying not sure the problem. What happened? Refresh. Okay. That's cool. Give me. All right, it's not coming. Oh, there we go. I got mines at least that came through here. Let's start with Al Horford.
All right, so Big Al on DK. Yeah, this is a tricky one because he was projected for 31% ownership. My general theory has been whichever guys played well the game before, see increased ownership, but his price has gone up a good amount now. Al Horford was below 6K just 2 games ago, and there's so much value to play for Memphis. Yeah, I'm going to go 35%.
44.1%.
See, you got to weigh that recency bias heavy
I know.
when it comes to
It is
playoffs.
madness, actually. You know what's also great is I built a single entry and I accidentally have Al Horford down in my forward spot with the power forward block. So I've blocked myself out of late swap. I should be shamed in the public square. Whatever.
So give me the next player.
Jalen Brown.
So Jalen Brown got in foul trouble last game. This is going to hurt his ownership. By the way, I hate that I'm just doing this based on whatever happened the game before, but I found this to be the path to success in guessing ownership.
Well, I mean, you were off by 9% there, but you undervalued your overestimation.
Well, Brown wasn't projected to be that popular either. 30%.
34.8.
Okay.
Marcus Smart. I'm just doing all the Celtics, and then I'll go to the Milwaukee set.
Smart was projected to be super, super popular today.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I?
I mean, I'm happy.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say 40% for Smart.
35.3. I'm really happy to be overweight to him right now. Well, ask me that same question in about 35 minutes. But as it stands right now, Marcus Smart sub 6K, I think should be higher on than that. Let's do Derek White.
All right, so Derek White. I think really hard about these. I don't take this game lightly. This game is very important to me.
3,700 Derek White on DraftKings.com.
All right. So Derek White, he did have a good game last time out. I'll get 40%.
He's 25.9%.
Interesting. All right. I definitely regret trying to pivot off of Derek White for the ownership.
He's a lot lower than I expected him to be.
I think Derek White at 25%, that's a very good value play. I've made an error in judgment.
Yeah. Again, but that's the game. That's kind of what makes these slates so fun to me. And again, I've never been the best short slate player. I will give all the credit in the world to our friend Rinpack to being one of the best in the world. Alex Baker, obviously, our guy, shit, my money is okay, I suppose. But like, it comes down to like These 2-game slates, sometimes you're like, I want to have more options on the board. I want to find the low-owned guys. There could be some massive leverage just by being overweight to certain guys in certain spots. And I think Derek White at that number, you definitely would want to be more if the slate started over again and you knew that going into it. Grant Williams.
So Grant Williams was popular last game and sucked. And when that happens, people do not like to play them. 15%.
I just clicked off of him. Like, find him again. It was like 17.1 or something like that.
So yeah, more or less.
Something crazy. 17.6%. There you go.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum.
Yeah, Grant Williams was like 40% owned or something last game, and he sucked. People do not like to go back to players in that spot. Same reason why, nobody's going to roster Melton today. Sorry, you asked me Tatum?
Yes, sir.
Say 35%.
36.1%.
All right.
Well done there, sir. Welcome back. You're back on your shit. All right. We're going to start with Milwaukee, but I want to start with this one. Pat Connaughton.
Pat Connaughton's going to be super popular, isn't he? Because Pat Connaughton was...
Just give me the damn number, Gregory.
No. I have to look at his box score from last game first, because I remember being really good, but I have to see what he put up last game. Yeah, so he scored... And this is DraftKings. He's a better DraftKings scorer than FanDuel. And so last game, DraftKings, he scored 25.25 points. He's played 33 and 30 minutes the last 2 games. He's gonna be like something stupid. I could your voice when you said Pat Connaughton, your voice changed in inflection. He's gonna be like 45% owned, isn't he?
He's 38.8%, but it's still a fuck ton of ownership. I had him at, he was 27% owned last slate, right? 27%. And I thought that was too much. And now we're talking about 38.8% of a guy coming off of a good game where he didn't burn anybody who rostered him. And he only went up $200. But that is still just insane to me because you're spending a roster spot on him. And I mean, his range of, hard to see him getting over 20, 22 in a majority of times you run out this game.
Yeah, it's, I wouldn't have, your voice definitely changed. And then I way overestimated your voice change there. I went really high when I went.
Well done.
When I went to it.
Again, I'm trying to lead you astray.
It.
It's just remember, I'm trying.
Well, no. But you led me down the right path and I just overestimated it.
Here we go. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Also, cash your tickets if you said 07. 07 was the correct answer. Please go up to the window and cash your 07 tickets.
I'm going to put this
The game is underway.
I don't know, like 60% for Giannis or something.
67.8%.
Yeah, I knew it's so. Like the number had to be high considering all the ownership that we're expecting to go to Tyus Jones and going to going to Steven Adams. But yeah, it was hard for me to actually guess like a 70% number.
And then we go to Drew Holiday.
So he's definitely going to be higher owned on FanDuel than DraftKings. I don't know, 40% DK?
DK, 33.9%.
He sucked so hard in the second half last game.
Sure did.
He looked like he was going to break the slate. Do you know what he shot from the field in the second half of that game?
I would be surprised just from what I remember. I don't think he made a shot that I saw him shoot.
He missed his last 7 shots of the game.
Yeah, there you go.
He shot 2 of 12 from the field in the second half.
Well, he just made a 3, so that's good. He's on the board along with our friend Grayson Allen knocking down a 3 there as well. Good times, whatever.
Got the game up. Do you have the game on?
I do.
Right, yeah, I'm at 10:46, 10:45, 10:46.
I'm just ahead of you.
All right, you're about 10 seconds ahead of me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just saw Drew go long on a 3, and then Smart got the rebound. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yep, Giannis just got the rebound here, 27.
Right, damn, you're from the future.
I am, and I'm actually 3 hours in the past. It's amazing. Also, this series is out of its damn mind, isn't it? 9-2 Milwaukee to start off the game. Wesley Matthews, Fothra.
What did you just call him?
Wesley Matthews.
No, you said his name with like 8 S's. You were like Wesley Matthews.
I was doing like a drunk English guy. Wesley Matthews, Fothra.
I think you're just covering up that
I fumbled
a mispronunciation.
Unique New York. unique. I had to open it up. Jason Tatum for 3. Welcome to the party.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Oh yeah.
Do we do all of the?
Yeah, everybody that was of interest. I mean, there was like a 1.1% Peyton Pritchard. You give me 1% of him, maybe I take it. I don't know. Probably not. Wesley Matthews, 7.7%. Pat Connaughton was the crazy one out of everybody that we listed off. Like, what in God's green earth is that? Like, how is he 3,800 going to be that popular? But Wes Matthews, who, for all intents and purposes, obviously not as good of a fantasy producer, but is going to be on the floor a lot, specifically to guard Tatum and try to be a pest. 7.7%. I would much rather take Wesley Matthews.
So if you're asking me the reason why, it's because Wes Matthews has been total shit for fantasy this series the entire season.
But I'm saying that if you're saying Pat Connaughton at 3,800 is going to be 40%, and then you have a 7% Connaughton, who I think only has like a 3.5% chance of landing in the optimal according to the boom bust tool. But still, I would rather be on the side of Wes Matthews on that.
I mean, I would rather have neither if that's a scenario.
That's the right answer. But if you made me, I would rather have Wes.
How many fantasy
George
points?
Hill's 2%. That's interesting.
How many fantasy points did you project Wes Matthews for? Do you remember?
Like 11.
Yeah, I'm for 12.
I have him for 11.4. Is that good?
Like last game was a ceiling game for him, and he had 12 real life points and a 9% usage rate. What would you guess is the highest usage rate that Wes Matthews has had the entire season? So keep in mind, this could be a game where he played in garbage time and just took a few shots and only played a few minutes. So we have an entire 82 game series. What is the highest use? I don't know the answer either. I'm looking it up right now. What do you think is the highest usage Wes Matthews has ever had? And by the way, this could get totally skewed. There could have been a game where he played 3 minutes in garbage time, took 2 shots, and it just massively inflated his usage.
I find it impossible to believe that an NBA player who plays 20 plus minutes a game doesn't run into 25% usage one time. You have to run into 25% usage one time. 25% is where I would set the over under on his highest usage, and I would take the over slightly.
So the highest usage he had the entire season was December 23rd against the Dallas Mavericks. He had a 20.6% usage rate and scored 7 real life points. That is the ceiling of his offense. The only time all year he went over 20% usage. He is useless.
Bobby Portis in the game. Now you party, young man. Pat Connaughton into the game for Brook Lopez. Now you don't party, young man.
See, let's we'll look at some bets in a second, but first I want to look at some live results here and see what we have for fantasy output. Are we panicking yet? Are we happy with the early results?
I mean, Al Horford 2-1-1, 3-1 for Jason Tatum here. I feel okay about what's going on. I mean, I obviously am heavier on Memphis and Golden State, but I have a crazy amount of Giannis.
Very, very low scoring to start. 10-11 is the score of the game. We're 5 minutes in. Jalen Brown, 3 points and an assist. Marcus Smart, a rebound, no other stats. Horford, not shocking, the high man. Right? Well, no, Jalen Brown, 5 points and assist and rebound now. So Jalen Brown, the high man. Al Horford right behind him. Jason Tatum not doing much so far. Grant Williams also 1 assist, no other stats. For the Bucks, 5 boards and assists, 2 points for Giannis. Have you played Brook Lopez at all in the playoffs? I have not. At least I don't remember it.
I think I played him one time when it was like a 2 center slate, and it was the first round, and I can't remember the scenario. He was pretty cheap, or maybe it was just like a weird slate. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I do remember I did have him in my single entry one time. I can tell you how many times I'll have him in my single entry going forward.
All right. We've got some super chats. So we'll hit on these. Then we'll bring up Odd Shop, or we'll talk about some bets. We're at 14. Think of ownership. Okay. So think of ownership. Melton and Brooks or Thompson and Looney. I prefer Melton and Brooks.
Melton and Brooks. And I don't know the other ones, but I love
Thompson and Looney is the other side.
Yeah. Looney, get out of here. No, Looney is not remotely in play for me today.
Same. Melton and Brooks. Next super chat. My filler arc. Gene Ralphio blocked Brooks on social media. Who's Gene Ralphio?
Gene Ralphio from Parks and Recreation.
Oh, okay. So Gene Ralphio. I don't know a lot of actors' names.
Oh, it's not the actor. The actor is the guy who's the actor in Sonic and everything else, but the character name is Jean Ralphio from Jean Ralphio from Parks and Rec. All right.
Yeah. So that's not a show I watch, but anyway.
He does a lot of musical tidbits while he's doing conversations. That's what he does.
Oh, that's probably why I don't watch the show. Well, anyway, he blocked Dylan Brooks on social media. My full arc's very funny. Gene Ralphio blocked Brooks on social media. So for utility, Jaren Jackson Jr., Draymond Green for the last man, and Jaren Jackson Jr.
He does kind of start everything off with like I don't know. It's an endearing teaser, if you will, into you don't know what it's going to get to. He gets his real estate worth in the super chat. JJJ or Green. If you're giving me just straight up, I want JJJ.
Yeah, it's Jaren Jackson for me. And once again, now we're getting into the betting portion of the show. We're going to look at Odd Shopper. Like I mentioned before, with BetMGM. You want a chance for a Lamborghini? Here's what you do. You sign up at BetMGM. You use the promo code LBO. Let me actually look up what the promo code was again, because I forgot. Usually I just know all the promo codes off the top of my head, but this one's different than normal. So I actually have to read it to make sure I get it right. Promo code LBL bets. Here's what you do. You sign up using the link in the description box below or the promo code LBL bets. You bet on any NBA money line tonight. Bet $10, you get $200 as long as the three-pointer is made. There's been at least one three-pointer made in every single game this season. It's going to happen. It's $200 for free. It's something you have to take advantage of. And what you're going to do with that money is it's either going to go towards buying a Lamborghini or it's going towards sex with Pat Connaughton. One of those two things. That's how you're going to spend your money. You're getting $200 for free from BetMGM.
Or now, towards Greg's hot dong picks.
Yes.
Get them hot dongs up in this bish. Let's go.
We're going to pull up Odd Shopper, where a lot of my hot dong picks come from. If you want hot dong picks, you go to oddshopper.com. You take your pants off. You find the best bets. We party. But now,
not necessarily in that order.
It could be. It's whatever. We all have different preferences. But let's look at some bets for tonight's game. And of course, one game's already underway, the Bucks Celtics game. We're halfway through. But let's see if there's any props we could find that we like from the Memphis game tonight. So Eric, pulling up Odd Shopper, what stands out to you as a good bet? People are getting $200 for free from BetMGM. What should they be spending their money on?
I mean, Otto Porter under 1.5 assists. I mean, Otto Porter, this is a game, as you said, maybe Golden State has this kind of spread out. They don't have the urgency. I still think they would strongly prefer to just go out and win this game. They're 4-point favorites. Go back home, rest, chill, kick your feet up for a little while, wait for Suns Mavericks to finish up. But I look at this as like Otto Porter has shot the ball phenomenally well and earned some court time, 24 and 26 minutes the last two. That's been the most he's had in the playoffs. And yet has only had fantasy or assist totals 3, 3, and 2, kind of just running into those. If anything happens to his minutes to go down to around 20, you're looking at like a 50-50 type scenario on that under of 1.5. So 48% expected win percentage, but you're getting plus 170 to take the under at that specific book that's listed. So I think Otto Porter is a guy that I've been using a lot as value before. I have a little bit of him today, not as much as I was expecting. He is positive in the boom bust tool, but wasn't falling into as many lineups because of how much Tyus Jones and Steven Adams I got to on DK. But I for sure like this under of 1.5 assists.
I can't get behind that one. I mean, he's had multiple assists in 8 of 9 playoff games so far. And I think he might start in place of Camengo today. That's also another holdup.
That would be a problem if that ends up being something that happens. But that's where you would kind of wait for something like that. For prize picks purposes, I mean, say what you will about Desmond Bane. If you don't think he's healthy, under 3.5 assists, let's get behind that one at least, shall we?
Yeah, so, I mean, Desmond Bane, I've talked about how he is not moving like an athlete of his age should be moving because he fell on his back towards the end of that Minnesota series and has just not looked correct this entire series. I get he put up 6 assists last game. Here's assist numbers the game before: 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. Like it's a number that I think is inflated based on what happened in the last game. The number should probably be 3 or maybe even 2.5. So I'm cool with the under there. The Otto Porter one, once again, I'm staying away from just because number one, I'm concerned about him potentially starting ahead of Camengo because he started ahead of Camengo in the second half of each of the last 2 games. Like, if that's your guy who you want to just start him in the first half too. Why not? Like, why is he starting the second half and not the first half?
That's your guy, pal. That's your guy.
That's your guy. And the other thing too, eventually Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are going to shoot better than like 10% from three. And I would think that could potentially help the assist numbers there for Otto Porter. So that one's going to be in a void for me, but I like the Bane under assists. What else? I mentioned that I like the ladder on Jaren Jackson's points. Here's part of the issue though. The numbers have moved a lot since I bet them because I was just looking at them again.
Yeah, then don't do that.
I like the numbers I have though.
I like the over of Dylan Brooks 20.5 points because he's going to shoot the ball an eternal amount of times. Will he hit the rim? That is a question to be answered, but I still think he's going to shoot so many times that 20.5 getting plus 115 on that seems to make some sense. Not going to use it for prize picks purposes. Expected win percentage, just 58%, but I think that has some utility in the betting streets.
Yeah, and I think we have a relevant question here from Michael Applegate. Is Bane looking to pass more because he's hurt? No, he just kind of sucks when he's out on the court because he's hurt. And by the way, one of these days he's going to show up and his back is going to look fine. But the issue has been he's just not played well at all this series, really from any avenue. I mean, I read off his assist numbers before, and so he had 6 last game, but the games before was 2 assists, 1 assist, 1 assist, 1 assist, 1 assist. So it's pretty consistently been unders here. He's not shooting. He's not scoring. He's not rebounding. He's not there's just very little that Desmond Bane is doing right now. I think he's pretty compromised. So I'm cool with unders when it comes to him. Do you have anything else you want to add from NBA? If not, who do you think are going to win the games tonight?
Yeah. Oh, yesterday that went well for me. Philadelphia. I was never going to bet that game. I already had the down 0-2 ticket for both them and for Dallas. So I was hoping it was going to be Philly and Philly and Dallas that made it happen. Neither of those came to fruition. I thought Phoenix was going to win that game. I didn't really understand though what was happening from the Bucks perspective, and the Bucks got absolutely slaughtered last night, which doesn't happen very often. Couldn't believe that 6 had 90. It ended up being 96% of the handle on Phoenix -6, which was just insane. You never see the public come through in that kind of a fashion. That's like Packers money coming in on them. So whatever, or Cowboys money.
Have you seen the betting splits on the money line for the Bucks Celtics game? I mean, I know we're halfway through the first quarter at this point.
Nope, haven't looked at it. I didn't look at it at all today.
All right. So the money line for the Bucks Celtics game, 70% of the bets are on the Bucks. 70% of the money is on the Celtics.
Wow. That's fascinating. That's interesting. I mean, here's the thing. Milwaukee,
we've seen that all. Sorry to cut you off, but we've seen this all series. All of the small bets are on the Bucks. All of the big bets are on the Celtics.
Yeah, and I think that shows you kind of how. I mean, you've been quick to this. I mean, I think this has just been the trend for the last couple of months. Everybody, including the Celtics, are starting to believe in the Celtics. Like, it's hard to watch those games and not think that there's some. Al Horford is playing like a 25-year-old. He's been in the NBA forever. We're watching Marcus Smart play unselfish basketball. We have Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum. It used to be some discord, especially early in the season and especially earlier in their tenures together. They seem to just be seamless, in tune with who needs to have the ball at certain times. It's offensively just been a catalyst, and it's the major catalyst is just how good defensively they are every single possession. Even Giannis, when he's getting buckets, they're tough buckets and spots. He's having to really make some incredible moves. We know Giannis is capable of that. And then letting other guys try just limiting the damage from some of these ancillary players. Drew Holiday shooting the ball terrible. That shouldn't be that big of a surprise considering how good Marcus Smart can be defensively. I mean, he kind of won Defensive Player of the Year. So I think what we're seeing is that the people who watch basketball are in tune with this a lot more, realize that the Celtics are for real. And other people who are casual basketball fans, and, I still believe in Milwaukee. I think they're a team that would not surprise me rattled off 2 in a row here. But the casual basketball fan sees plus money on the money line of the Bucks, the defending NBA champions, going into Boston. Yeah, I'll take that.
So the other thing that comes to the Bucks, I mean, Chris Middleton being out is just such a big deal. So they don't have anybody who could create offense for themselves outside of Giannis and Drew Holiday. So, I mean, we've seen these games like last game, for instance, the Bucks look good in the first half. They even look good in the third quarter. They totally fall apart by the time the fourth quarter rolls around because Giannis and Drew have nothing left in the tank. somebody messaged me on Twitter and said the reason the Bucks lost that game was because they took Giannis out in the fourth quarter. It was an overreaction. He thought the game was rigged for that reason. But here's what they did. Because Giannis got into a collision with Marcus Smart. They called the timeout. They took Giannis off the court. They ran 2 possessions. They called the timeout and put Giannis back in. So in total, Giannis had 50 seconds, or it was actually 49 seconds, if I remember correctly, in the fourth quarter of that game. And the score was 2-2 when he was off the court. It didn't have any real impact on the game, but they had to use those timeouts just to get him rest because he was so tired, which is going to happen when he's just running through. I mean, he plays basketball like the Juggernaut. You ever seen the X-Men movies? All he does is he just. I
love X-Men so much.
Here's something I don't understand. How does Giannis not get called for more charges?
I'm surprised he doesn't. And he's got the Euro. I'm surprised that Giannis hasn't learned a 2-step jump stop. Like, it's incredible because there's so many times he just wants to keep moving forward. And I get it. A lot of these players don't want to jump stop. You don't want to get in the habit of doing that. Knees go bye-bye in those kind of scenarios. He always wants to have his momentum going forward. Marcus Smart's done a pretty great job. And I would say there are a number of times a game where I'm like, that could have gone either way. And I feel like I say that like 8 or 9 times in Giannis games.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them I don't even think could go either way. Just for whatever reason, it's gotten to a point where maybe it's a reputation thing, but I just look, it's like, oh, my age is bowling dudes over. These should be offensive fouls. And they just get called defensive every time. By the way, somebody in chat had asked, it was Ryan Stubbs asked, did Al Horford and Beal play together at Florida? The Horford team was Horford, Joakim Noah, Corey Brewer. Who are the other 2 guys? Do you remember?
Say that again.
The rest of the guys with Al Horford at Florida. It was Joakim Noah, right?
Yeah, Joakim Noah. And I was going to say, Bradley Beal was way after Al Horford. He was like early 2000s or early 2010s was Bradley Beal. It would have been Al Horford. What was that title team? 06 and 07 back-to-back? Was that what it was? Or was that, it was like right after North Carolina, I believe. North Carolina had like the Hansbrough teams. And then it became the Florida teams. And Donovan then went to the NBA after, went to OKC and such. Would have been.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but this is very important. My brother just posted in chat. Ben, are there meatballs left? Because that's going to depend on the answer to my question there. I'm sorry. It was really important. I had to cut you off for that. Just Ben, let me know in chat. Are there meatballs at mom and dad's house? If
very nice that he didn't break into your room the way that Duke would. Duke would just like ram over the door. And just dad, meatballs. Let's go, dad.
Right. Yes, I would like to be picked up. There are meatballs left. I'm going. Yes.
Ben Ehrenberg, shout out.
Yeah, very, very important. I'm sorry. You have to break the show every once in a while for important information. I'm getting meatballs, right? Yeah, and I don't care. I don't even know what we were talking about. Everything went black for me. It's like we're talking about Florida basketball. Who gives a shit? There's meatballs on the line. 1916 is the score of the basketball game right now. Let's look at some live stats here. Let's sweat, and then we'll give out final picks, and then we'll get out of here for the night. I'm going to get some meatballs. Stats right now. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 4 points, 5 boards, and an assist. Is there anybody you're looking at right now who you say like, oh, this is a must play now based on just the first quarter results?
Based on first quarter results, I mean, didn't we have Wes Matthews with 5.4? I mean, what a smash, right? Giannis 10.5. That's a decent enough start. We know he gets off the floor. He'll come back on the floor. That's how it always works, y'all. He's going to be just fine. Derek White out on the floor is a good thing to see. And Daniel Tice getting an early rotation with a bucket, starting it off. I ended up overweight on FanDuel by a pretty extreme margin. So I'm hoping 3,600 he can pay off, but he just started his rotation. So definitely no must-haves here. Pat Connaughton, continue doing what you're doing. You're doing great, sweetie. Just turned it over to Jason Tatum. Marcus Smart bucket off of that. 2019 Celtics. We're going to have ourselves a good game.
I hope. I mean, everybody knows, but I think there's a lot of people in chat, too, that have tailed me on Celtics bets at this point. So I think we got a lot of people that are rooting for Boston, unless it's just the public, because the public is all over Milwaukee in this spot. Sharp bettors on the Bucks. That's how I'm just going to frame it every time. But I mean, it's true. That's what the data shows. Bigger money bets on the Celtics, smaller money bets on the Bucks. Generally, it's what that means. It's where the smart money is and where the public money is. Eric, if you had to give out one bet to people for the rest of it, it could be anything. It could be badminton. It could be table tennis, baseball, basketball, whatever you want. What's the one thing you would tell people that they could spend their free money on at BetMGM? Because if they sign up at BetMGM and they use the promo code LBL bets, $10, turn it into 200. All that has to happen is one of the players in the game has to hit a three if you bet on the late night game. What should they be using that money on?
Well, I hope my pick would have been in baseball. It already started. It was 3-2. Washington and the Mets, McGill on the hill going up against Sanchez. Just smashed the over of that. It's 3-2 in the first inning. So yeah, that is no longer part of the day here. Kevin Kiermaier went yard. We should all drink and pour one out because that's impossible. But I think from an NBA perspective, I said the over on Dillon Brooks points. If you're getting plus money on 20.5, I know that Dillon Brooks isn't somebody people like. I get it. You got to take the over of 20.5 here. I see 18 as his number on Prize Picks. I want the over of that. 28 is his fantasy score on Prize Picks. I want the over of that. As much as Dillon Brooks is not something that you want in your lives, I think he's going undervalued because the public might not like him. And that's always a good thing to get invested in.
All right. So I gave out 2 home run calls on my video earlier. I've been told one of them was already hit. I had Juan Soto at plus 450. He's already homered.
So we were together on that one. Juan Soto was in my main lineup. So
yeah, there we go. So Juan Soto right off the bat, just smashing Tyler Miguel. We love to see it. So my other one, I was going to say my other bet I really like, but the game's already underway, was Jared Walsh to homer at plus 575, I think was the number. But the game's already started.
I don't mind it. I think
the game's already started. So
again, it's an afternoon game in Anaheim, and there's always something to be mined out when you get these kind of afternoon games, as opposed to the Marine Layer. Didn't affect them last night, I suppose, but at least getting some warmer weather, wind blowing out, I believe, in that stadium. It's not that muted coming off of the ocean, so you have an opportunity to see some bombs. What are you talking about, Jordan Klein? You're the resident Angels fan. Go ahead. Tell the people what you think. I know it's not, but I'm saying it's coming off the ocean. It's like 10 miles away. It's not.
I don't know how is this the amount of research? Is Eric doing like topography research when he's trying to build his baseball lineups?
I just literally, all you have to do is find a win.
You're looking at too much information, Eric. It's not that relevant.
You find
he only cares about, this is really all he cares about when he builds his baseball lineups is how far away stadiums are from the ocean.
No, I like typing in different stuff and mapping wind directions for golf and for, shut up. I'm leaving. Goodbye. We have to go.
It is probably about time to end the show anyway. We've gone overtime. Jordan Klein was already unhappy when we started the show. I can only imagine that he's even more unhappy. He's going to charge us for 2 minutes of overtime at this point. So on the way out, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, good luck tonight. Be on the lookout for the starting lineups for Golden State and Memphis. That's going to be important. Should we just keep going for a while? Jordan, do you have other stuff to do?
Jordan Klein, Angels closer to the Matterhorn. They are very close to the Matterhorn. How far is Angel Stadium away from the ocean? If I had to set the over-under at 15 miles, I would.
Jordan, play the music out. I'm not listening to this shit anymore.
Oh, never mind. God, I hate you all.
I've got meatballs to eat.